Welcome everyone to our regularly scheduled Indio City Council, Indio Water Authority meeting for Wednesday, June 21st, 2023. We will start with call to order and roll call by our city clerk.
Councilmember Furman.
Present.
Councilmember Holmes.
Present.
Councilmember Miller.
Present.
And Mayor Pro Tem Ramos Amit.
Present.
And for the record, Mayor Ortiz is absent.
Thank you, City Clerk. At this time, we will open up the public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak at this time on any item not on the agenda? Seeing no one step forward, we'll close the public comment and adjourn to closed session to discuss 3.1, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation.
Is there a reason why we can only see Indy? I-N-D-I?
Where?
On your screen, you can't see it. It says I, because it's so white.
Oh, okay.
It's real bright.
Recording stopped.
right, thank you all for joining us today. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Furman,
Present.
Councilmember Holmes,
Present.
Councilmember Miller,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Ramos Amit,
Present.
and Mayor Ortiz.
Present, thank you. And we'll move on to invocation. We have Pastor Alex Hebert from Garden Fellowship Church.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, guys. Let's pray. Lord, we are just so grateful for the opportunity that we have and the freedom that we have to come to you. God, that you are a God that loves your people. And Lord, we rejoice in that fact and pray that you would just continue to have just your graceful hand over this city. Lord, we thank you for all that you've done in this city, that you continue to do, and that you will do in the future. And Lord, I pray for our leaders that you would have your hand upon them. Continue to grant them wisdom. Lord, I pray that they would turn to you in those moments of crisis and even moments of rejoicing, giving you the credit that you so deserve, because God, you are worthy. God, continue to do great things for the future generations that are to come. Lord, that we have the opportunity to have an effect on. God, just use us in mighty ways to lead up that next generation. Lord, we pray for the safety for our security teams and our police force and our fire, that you would continue to have your hand upon them, use them. Lord, be with them in this world that can be so against them at times. Lord, we are so grateful for them and pray that you would just work mightily through them and keep them safe. So God, we give you this night, we give you this city, we place it in your hands. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you, Pastor. And for our flag salute, we have Amy Leyva, 5th grader from Van Buren Elementary. Amy is a dedicated student. She has just completed 5th grade at Van Buren Elementary School and will be attending Indio Middle School in the fall. Amy works hard to meet her goals. She is kind, respectful, and always has a positive mindset, even in the face of adversity. Most importantly, Amy has the makings of a future leader, as she is fearless in presenting her ideas and has the heart to believe in herself. Thank you for joining us, Amy, and go ahead whenever you're ready.
Right hand under your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. What do you like? Oh, Amy? Amy, we do have a gift for you. We have a backpack here. We have a backpack and like take a picture. That's okay with you?
Yes.
Yeah? All right. Let's go over here and we'll take a picture. Thanks for coming again. Good job. You excited for middle school? Thank you. Thanks again for coming. We'll move on to our next item, City Attorney Report on Closed Session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council gave direction by a vote of 4-0 with Mayor Ortiz absent on the item on closed session. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item 5.1. We have a presentation on fentanyl awareness education by Jana Trew of Desert Healthcare District. Jana, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jana Trew. I'm the Senior Program Officer for the Desert Healthcare District and Foundation. I thank you for the opportunity to do a very brief presentation on a project that the Desert Healthcare District is currently engaged in with Riverside University Health System's Public Health Division related to the Fentanyl Awareness Education Project. For those of you that may or may not know, the Desert Healthcare District has been in existence since 1948 with a singular goal to provide the capacity to improve the health and wellness experiences of our Coachella Valley community members. As such, the district funds community-based organizations that are willing to provide services that improve the healthcare experiences and behavioral health support to our community members in the Coachella Valley including the city of Indio. So as such, our project is a very short-term project. It began in April of this year and will end on August 31st of this year. This is a targeted response to the fentanyl crisis that is affecting our nation, state, Riverside County, and the city of Indio. It has two real important features. What we're trying to find out in this project period is whether or not heightened awareness of the true dangers of fentanyl, the availability of fentanyl harm reduction response supplies, helping community members to have that heightened awareness and know what to do if they come upon an overdose type incident. So during the term of this project, we'll be providing that awareness from two structures. The first one is coordinated scheduled events that the district will be scheduling with our partner, ABC Recovery. ABC Recovery has an over 60-year history and experience providing substance use, substance misuse, and recovery-focused support services to the Coachella Valley and specifically here in the city of Indio. They will be providing those trainings to some of our local community members that you, I'm sure, are already aware of, but I will identify them. Those community members that have agreed to partner with us so that we can reach the most vulnerable community members who are at the highest risk are Martha's Village and Kitchen, Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, Volunteers in Medicine Street Medicine Program, and College of the Desert, because we want to be able to reach the college students that are coming in this summer as part of their College Bridge program. The second framework that will be employed is also to do individualized community outreach. The reason for that second kind of structure is there are some individuals who are at the highest risk for potential overdose who are not going to come to any of these scheduled training events. So we don't want to lose the ability and the capacity to reach them, and that is why the Volunteers in Medicine Street Medicine outreach is critical. That will commence next week, and we're very excited to be working with that team. Just a few numbers for you. The reason why we were approached by Riverside County is the fact that in Riverside County in 2022, there were approximately 505 fentanyl-related overdose deaths. In 2023, and this only includes January and February, there's been 68. So we're already kind of trending true to having another year that has a high level of occurrence. The most vulnerable population related to these occurrences are Latino males ages 25 to 44. So again, this is a very targeted project. We're going to provide the education sessions that we schedule in hopes of reaching 150 City of Indio residents. We're almost there, actually, and we still have a couple of more months on this project, but we're almost at 150. And then our community outreach, the individualized outreach that I was talking about, we're trying to reach 500 community members. And we think that we're actually going to achieve that goal as well. We're employing pre and post education surveys so we can have some kind of way of tracking if someone feels more equipped to know what to do in the event of an overdose occurrence. And we're also going to use that data to look at, to help us with our report. We're going to publish a report in September at the end of this project that will really pull together, first of all, the numbers that were reached through these education sessions, any kind of trends that come through as a result of that outreach, any lessons that we learned, things we thought were going to go a certain way and didn't, and why, and also any barriers that we encountered, whether we were able to resolve those barriers or whether they remain barriers. And all of that will also inform any recommendations that the healthcare district will make as a result of this project. The outcomes of this project are important because the plan, we've already been approached by other cities in the Coachella Valley to see if we can also do the same type of project in their communities with their stakeholders. And we are currently working with Riverside University Health System Public Health to map out a 5-year plan that would be much more extensive than the short-term focused project we're engaged in now. Also, this will have implications, and this report will be supplied to the city of Indio so that you can also look at, are there opportunities for either expansion of this type of a project or a way to, again, try to reach the community members we need to. Harm reduction as a concept is not always viewed positively, but what we're trying to really measure is what is the impact of a more informed public? What is the impact of people feeling like they have choices when an overdose is occurring? And frankly, any life saved is work that we want to do. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from our council?
No, I have no questions, but thank you for the enormous effort you're putting forth to help with this really very serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you as well. I mean, this is an emergency. It is a health emergency in our society, and it's great to see the work that you're doing. And hopefully we can continue to work with our colleagues in Sacramento to pass more legislation to support what you're doing and continue to save lives. So we appreciate you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. But when you said the survey will come out and come to the city, are you doing individual cities and county also, so there'll be statistics for all of it, or is it just the Indio area as a whole?
So what we will have is our outcomes from our project that is focused on Indio and the work that we did, but we also will look at Riverside County outcomes during that same period of time, and then match that up against state trends and national trends. We don't want to attribute any kind of decrease to what we're doing specifically, but again, it's important to understand everything that's been occurring.
Yeah, it's just that, the city of Indio has all the services for the county and everyone else, so we get a lot more of individuals coming in here who might not be 100%
Residents.
with residents of Indio, so I'd like to see that as a whole. So thank you very much for what you're
And
doing.
one of the things we ask on our survey is that. We
Okay.
thought of that. Are you an actual resident of Indio, or are you passing through? Or so that'll help with some of the trending.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay.
Anything? Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well. Education is such an important part of drug prevention and overdose prevention, so really appreciate the initiative that you and your team are taking to get these studies going and get some numbers that we can correlate to these trends, so really appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation on the Regional Flood Control Project from David Wilson from the Coachella Valley Water District.
Good evening.
Hi.
I sent a presentation. Let's see if it's, is it on me to pull up?
Subdi?
Okay. I can control this, okay. Right, good evening. Again, my name is David Wilson. I'm an engineering manager here with the Coachella Valley Water District. I manage our canal, irrigation distribution, agricultural drainage, and stormwater engineering division here at the Coachella Valley Water District. And I've been asked to provide an update on the construction that I'm sure you've seen going on up in the North Indio area. And I thought I would start with just quickly, just kind of what the Coachella Valley Water District, or where we are at as it relates to regional flooding. We are obviously in the Coachella Valley. We are surrounded by mountains, and these mountains are impervious for the most part, and it doesn't take much rain for these mountains to start conveying flow down into the valley floor. So these shapes you see here are watersheds that have been addressed historically. The watershed on the right is the Mecca North Shore watershed that was addressed by way of the East Side Dike that was constructed by the United States Bureau of Reclamation as part of their protective works for the Coachella Canal and the agricultural land to the downstream of that. Off to the left of your screen here, you have the communities that had little higher densities over the years in the 70s and 80s. Some flood control projects were constructed. You've got Ratchet Mirage, La Quinta, and areas within Palm Desert that were all addressed in the 70s and 80s. These are the within the last 10 years or so that I've been at the Water District, these are the watersheds that we're now addressing. We've got the Morongo Wash watershed, which is north of Interstate 10. This is a 200 square mile watershed, which has over 30,000 cubic feet per second emanating from that watershed in the 100-year flood. We also have the Thousand Palms watershed, which is about 100 square mile watershed, which is the focus, or which is the source of the hazard that we will be talking about here shortly. And then we have the North Indio watershed, which is about 150 square mile watershed that we're recently have addressed. And then we have some master plans that we've developed in the Mecca North Shore area, the Oasis area, and then the west shore of the Salton Sea. Those are master plans that are intended to address any development that will come up in the future, and have a plan to address the regional flooding from that perspective. These are the flood hazards right now that are tributary to the North Indio area. We call them, these are the Thousand Palms flood hazards, but these flood hazards emanate from the mountains and run along Interstate 10. As you can see on the right side of the screen here, the largest watershed area has about 29,000 cubic feet per second. 1 cubic foot is very roughly the size of a basketball. So if you can imagine 29,000 basketballs per second rolling down the valley, it's quite a bit of water. And so you see Sun City Palm Desert, which is on the right side of your screen there. They were conditioned as part of their development to follow California drainage law, which is that they are to receive off-site flows and either contain them or convey them through their property, and then discharge those flows in a manner that is consistent with historical flooding patterns, which is what they did. And so we have, oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. I did want to say that we did some pretty heavy-duty modeling to establish these flows, and we took a look at some historic photos that we had. This is Hurricane Doreen in 1977. You can see, I don't know if I can point. You probably can't see me. But Washington Street is kind of on the right side of the street there. Oh, does this help? Perfect, thank you. Interstate 10 is right here. This is Washington Street, and it runs up like this here, and then cuts around into Ramon Road. So this is that larger watershed. If you look at here, the modeling matches it pretty well. So we have a pretty high level of comfort that our modeling is pretty true to form. This is the Thousand Palms flood control project that we intend to build here in a few years. We just completed the environmental documents, but this project right here is a series of levees that will capture the flows coming out of the mountains here, convey those flows into a storm channel along Avenue 39 there, or 38, and discharge them into the existing storm channels within Sun City Palm Desert. You can see we still have some flood hazards that are coming out of the Morongo Basin. These flood hazards we call riverine flows. They run along Interstate 10. We do have a two-phased approach to addressing these flows. We're working on a project right now that we call the North Cathedral City Stormwater Project that captures about 2/3 of those flows and allows them to, or conveys them underneath Interstate 10 and discharges those into the Whitewater River, which is further to the left of the screen here as you're looking at it. And then we have a phase 2, which is quite a bit more expensive, which requires widening bridges on Interstate 10, which is a little ways out. But once we complete that, we will have addressed most of those flows, with the exception of minor flow coming right here from, I believe that's the Willow Wash, coming along Interstate 10. And so the folks that develop along this land will have to address those flood hazards coming out of there. So again, you have Sun City Palm Desert has the existing storm channels that they have constructed. Right now they double as a golf course, but they are intended to convey storm flows. And then we have the North Indio watershed. These are the flood hazards that are contributing to this location here. Sun City Palm Desert did construct a channel to discharge those flows behind the dike. This is the dike running along here that again was built in 1949 by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. The FEMA does not recognize this dike as a flood hazard, or rather a flood control facility. We just completed the project last year to reinforce areas of the dike and get it certified with FEMA, and we are wrapping up the letter of map revision with FEMA right now, which will remove the folks in Talavera from a special flood hazard area. They currently have to pay flood insurance as per the National Flood Insurance Program. Once we get this LOMAR completed, which should be completed in the next couple of months, they will no longer have to have that statutory requirement. But this is the flood hazards that are coming out of Sun City Palm Desert. Again, I mentioned that Sun City had to release the flows in a manner consistent with historic flooding patterns, which is what they did. This entire community is still within a flood hazard. Here you see Sun City Shadow Hills, which is on the right side. And just to be clear, we have Jefferson Street running up along here. The Shadow Hills and Desert Ridge schools are here. And this is Adams Street. And then these are the auto dealerships running along here, just to get your bearings. So Sun City Shadow Hills was also conditioned to receive off-site flows and then construct a facility that would convey those flows through their property and discharge them on the downstream end in a manner consistent with California drainage law with historic flood patterns. These are the flows right now that this project that we're about to talk about is what we're looking to address. And that's what this is here. This is the North Indio Flood Control Project. It receives the flows out of the 3 channels constructed by Sun City Palm Desert. It combines those flows down here on north of Avenue 40 and discharges the flows into the existing storm channels within Sun City Shadow Hills. As you can see, there's quite a few roadway crossings. It's about just under 3 miles worth of concrete channel. We have trapezoidal channel, rectangular channel, and a series of box structures that go underneath all the roadway crossings. We constructed what we called phase 1 a few years ago around in this corner here. The Damani property, which is here, development, and the Espana development were both conditioned by the county and the city and CVWD to have an all-weather crossing along here, so they contributed to the cost of this phase 1 approach. And this is phase 1 completed. This is looking south. This is the Damani development, which I believe is completed now, and then the Espana development over here, and this is Sun City Shadow Hill, or rather Sun City Palm Desert, the outlet going down into this phase of the work. So the project is roughly 2/3 complete. It's we've got over, you can see the numbers here for the various types of channels. We've got various outlets and inlets that still need to be constructed. We still have to complete some access roads, install fencing, and we are addressing some of the local drainage for the community to allow them to discharge into the future channels. As you can imagine, with all these roadway crossings, you hit quite a few utilities. We've got 7 domestic water lines we have to relocate, a recycled water line, 4 gravity sewer, a sewer force main, and each of the crossings has electrical, gas, and telecommunications that need to be addressed. For the most part, we had some pretty good record drawings of these facilities. Telecom was another answer, and it has held us up in a couple of areas where we've had some quite a few unknown utilities related to telecommunications. And then we also are going to be relocating the existing traffic signal here on Adams Street. So 6 roadway construction efforts required for this project and 3 private roads. You may have noticed while you're out there that the work has been kind of performed in a hopscotch, if you will, method, starts and stops in some areas. The contractor has tried to maintain momentum by taking advantage of the areas where there were not as much interference, if you will, where they could blow and go, for lack of a better phrase, in these areas here. And then in the areas where we had to coordinate, we coordinated with the Espana folks on their construction project. We're working with them to provide power to their access point over here on Avenue 39. We also worked closely with the city of Indio, the city fire, and the county and Desert Sands as it relates to the road closures in the community and how many road closures we could have at one time and the sequencing of those road closures to do what we could to minimize the impact to the community as it relates to the transportation and considering the school and the kids going to school. We also had some hiccups with supply chain. We've had that in all of our projects pretty much coming out of the pandemic. But we're coming close to addressing all of that. And I apologize for the skewed nature of this. I was trying to squeeze this onto this slide, but I wanted to give it a sense for the timing of each of the locations. So if you go from the top to bottom, we expect to be complete with this roadway work here in February of next year, in '24. We expect to be complete with the roadway work here on Avenue 38 in October of '23, the end of this October. We expect to be complete in June of '24 of the work along here within Sun City Palm Desert, the relocation of the signal light, and the work within Adams in Avenue 39. We expect to be done along Avenue 40 here in August, and then complete the work within the crossing in January on Jefferson Street, and the work within Sun City Shadow Hills in June. Overall, the project, as I mentioned, is over 2/3 complete. We expect the construction to be done in the fall of '24. And just to reiterate the benefits of the project, it does remove 2,700 acres of land from a FEMA mapped special flood hazard area, which those folks, if they're going to get a mortgage that is backed by the federal government, they have to obtain flood insurance, which is not inexpensive. And then this leads us to our ultimate goal, which is to provide a nexus with the storm channel, the flood hazards on the north side of Interstate 10, with our Coachella Valley Stormwater Channel on the south side, and find a way to get those flows out of those areas and down out into the Coachella Valley Stormwater Channel. And that completes my presentation. I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you for your presentation. The January 24 date for the Jefferson project just next to the new Sun City, what is the construction time?
What is the construction time?
Yeah, you said it was complete January 2024, but it's on Jefferson heading to the school.
Yeah, they
so-
intend to break ground on that any day now along Jefferson
So
Street.
it's going to affect this next school year until January?
That's correct.
And that's unavoidable?
We worked it out with the city on that. Avenue 40 will be open.
The one behind,
So yes,
yeah.
so the
So you'll
detour
divert
will allow
traffic?
for that, but it'll be that location just south of 40.
Okay, so it's
It'll
going to be
have
under
to be detoured.
construction about 6 months?
Yes, and if I may, there is a detour being constructed that does allow for continuous traffic northbound and southbound on Jefferson. It's just going to be a diversion.
One lane each way?
I believe it's, and I'm sorry, I believe it's 2 lanes. I believe we're doing 2 lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Nice. Question, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I kind of asked Mr. Wilson to come down and talk about it because I know it's going to affect not only our schools, but also Sun City Shadow Hills, which is part of my district. They were under an interpretation that this would be done in the next 2 or 3 months, and as you can see, it's going to take 6 months and even longer. And you're doing a great job. It's unfortunate that it's going to take as long to do some of those crossings. Is there anything that we can do to help you to get the communication out? I mean, obviously, I know we have some Sun City Shadow Hills residents here that are taking notes. They're going to go back to their board to kind of tell them anything we could do to help it go quicker, or just we're going to get some updates as we're going along.
I don't think so, and I should have provided it on the slide, but we do have a website that allows for continuous updates on our website, cvwd.org.
Okay.
There is a link on the website that will allow you to go to that. There's also a hotline that goes right to the person that sits next to me. So if there's any issues with the work, we will be notified right away. So if you have any issues, don't hesitate to call the hotline.
And so the dust control and all that's coming through you, and so.
That's correct.
So we can know that and mitigate it. That's perfect. And then lastly, all this stuff that you've disrupted, everything else, will be put back to the existing condition that it was before. So if there's turf there, the fences, all that will be replaced at no cost to the residents.
That's
or
correct.
No cost to the associations.
That's correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we got that update out there, because it is going to affect a lot of people from Talavera to Shadow Hills to all the people going to both schools.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to have a major effect as we close more roads, and if we do the Monroe Street interchange like we anticipate, it's really going to have a negative effect on a lot of areas. But progress does take time, and unfortunately, progress does take a little pain. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to us with the update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up, we have item 5.3, Proclamation for LGBTQ plus Pride Month. I want to recognize the history of the fight for equality in the LGBTQ community, as well as recognize some of the great work being done by our partners within the community. So we have with us today Lex Ortega, who is the Director of Community Engagement at the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert. We also have our chair of the Planning Commission, Christian Rodriguez, and we have Alex Sikora, who is a nurse practitioner at DAP Health, which will be joining me down here for the proclamation. If you guys could all come down. So we just want to say thank you again for all the work that you do within our community, and we wanted to give you the opportunity to share with our community some of the work that you do and anything that you want to say about the proclamation.
Sure, thank you. My name is Alex Sikora. I'm the nurse practitioner at DAP Health over in Indio, right near JFK. So we're open 5 days a week, and we have services that are completely free of charge, do STI testing, HIV, AIDS care, and you can come get tested and in and out. So come give us a visit. I want to thank y'all for having me and inviting us to the proclamation. Really appreciate y'all having us. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Lex Ortega. I use they, them, ella pronouns in Spanish. I'm with the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert. We have a location in Palm Springs and have had that for many years. And it's been a dream of mine to be able to open up our space in the city of Coachella. I want to commend the city, as the city of Indio, the largest city in our Coachella Valley, to honor LGBTQ Pride Month. I stand on the shoulders of people who have come before me, right? And the fact that I get to do this work for the people who come after me. I just came from our office in Coachella where we probably had 20 kiddos, many of whom are residents of the city of Indio, because that space is more accessible to them, right? And they're able to actually be kiddos with other kiddos around, figuring out who they are. I also want to say, in many other parts of the country, June is actually the month where Pride is celebrated. As we know here, it is quite hot for that. And so here in the desert, obviously we have Palm Springs Pride, but for folks that don't know, for the Eastern Coachella Valley, we do have Eastern Coachella Valley Pride that is typically held within the city of Coachella. But we have planning committee members. I would say about 20% of those planning committee members are residents of the city of Indio. And so we're constantly figuring out ways that we can support both young people and also LGBTQ plus adults who also want spaces in their own communities so that they don't have to travel all the way to Palm Springs to feel like they can enjoy their lives, right? So we are here available as partners if the city has ideas and ways to support what is undoubtedly one of the bigger populations of LGBTQ people in our Coachella Valley. Gracias, thank you.
And I just want to say and commend the city and mayor for the proclamation as a member of the LGBTQ community who grew up in India, who now serves on the Planning Commission, has been involved in the inception and then the actual implementation of this dream of the Eastern Coachella Valley Pride event. I just want to say thank you for all of the support and for proclaiming that this is a safe city. I want to give a shout out to my fiance who's over there. We're planning on getting married very soon. It's a safe space, a wonderful city for us to live in, and this is just an opportunity to tell the world that this is a place where we can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, and just want to say thank you again. It's very important to have, I think it's like culturally competent, right, healthcare services, community spaces and community services, representation on our board. So we really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing to support the community, and we're here to support you as well. So thank you again. And I'll go ahead and read this. It says, whereas we stand with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community of Indio as they declare their pride in who they are and who they love, we acknowledge June is the Worldwide Pride Month. And whereas it is imperative that young people in our community, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, feel valued, safe, and empowered and supported by their peers and community leaders. And whereas despite being marginalized, LGBTQ plus people continue to celebrate authenticity, acceptance, and love. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Oscar Ortiz, Mayor of the City of Indio, along with the Indio City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June as LGBTQ Pride Month in the City of Indio and urge residents to share in the pride of our city's diverse citizenry by participating in the 7th Annual ECV Pride Festival, October 2023. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Indio to be affixed this 21st day of June 2023. Thank you again. All right, we'll move on to our next item, City Manager Reports and Information.
Thank you, Mayor. As was requested at the last meeting, we have Scott Viziak, who, if he can come forward. Scott is our Emergency Services Coordinator, and I thought we'd just give him a few minutes to introduce himself so you can be aware of him and the great work that he's doing, but also to provide a little information that those that are listening in can take advantage of, as well as what may be on our website. So, Scott?
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Good evening.
Mr. Montgomery. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up here and give you a little brief on what's going on in the emergency preparedness situation. First and foremost is I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to being your emergency services manager. It's been quite a challenge. It's been fun. I've put my whole dedication into it, and I couldn't do it without the team of Scott Trujillo and the rest of the executive staff that helps me out with this. So with that, I'm just going to give you a couple of brief updates. We're finishing up with employee training on the NIMS and SIMS required training through the state of California. I did a quick audit, and I found out that we were highly deficient on bringing all of our employees up to standards. So we've been doing that, and out of the 127 employees that did not have the training, we've got over 100 of them done now. I've got one more class to go. We should bring everybody into compliance, and then I'm going to be doing it on a monthly basis to be able to keep all of our new hires up on it, as well as those that want to have more training. Even though I'm doing the 100, 700, some of them request the 200, 800, and other ICS qualifications. And getting a really good response out of that. And it's also given me a great opportunity to meet the employees and tell them a little bit about myself as well as them. And so I'm learning a lot of those. We've brought some state and regional training classes into the city of Indio. We did, through the California State Training Institute, the emergency planning class. That was a 2-day emergency planning class. I wish I would have had that prior to coming, because it gave me a lot of information that I had to kind of learn through other people. But we brought that down. That was attended by 30 people from all over Riverside County, as well up in the San Luis Obispo area that came down. So it was a really good class. Got some really good feedback about our location, our classroom, and the amenities that are here in the city of Indio. So we got some really good response out of that. We also brought in from a FEMA point of stance the working with the media class. That was a 1-day class, and it just kind of fine-tuned us on how to deal with the media a little bit better than what we currently do, how to be respectful, give them the information that they're looking for as well, to respect them. We're continuously getting requests for community emergency response training. I've gone through and noticed all of our equipment that we have that are available to put these classes on. We have a CERT trailer. We have a lot of CERT equipment. So the County of Riverside is going to help us put on the class. We're going to do it later on this year. That'll be a weekend class for entry-level people. And I've already establishing a list of people that are contacting me through our website that would like that class. So we've got that coming up. With that, you guys notice where this is our lovely webpage, and we're going to be putting a banner on here that's going to identify our cooling centers. So we all know that the Indio Senior Center is a cooling center that's identified, but I'm also going to put a list on here of available cooling centers throughout Riverside County, so it's just not going to be for us, But we will clearly be identified first and foremost about the Indio Senior Center, and then it'll list all the other ones throughout. But what I wanted to take you through is if you hit the departments and you scroll down, you can see the Emergency Preparedness Program. And there it gives us a calendar of what the topics are through the month. So, but the important part is I'm encouraging a lot of our residents to visit our website, the www.indio.org, because it tells us a lot about emergency preparedness. And this is how we're getting the word out. But the important thing here is the earthquake preparedness. And so anybody can go to these web links in the sites, and it'll give them all the information in which they're looking for. And part of that is, which I'm going to get to, is we've been doing a lot of community outreach. We did an emergency preparedness class for our faith-based partnership over at the Shepherd of the Valley Methodist Church, which was attended by a lot of our local pastors. And I did that in conjunction with the County of Riverside's Emergency Management Department, as well as the Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network. So it just wasn't me. We had a couple of different patches in the room so we can get a collective view on what our residents are, specifically what our faith-based community can be doing in the event that we have a natural disaster. So we've given them some ideas. Well, I also did an emergency preparedness program for the Indio Garden Apartments, and I did that in conjunction with Coachella Valley Disaster Preparedness Network. I got to be involved in an excellent town hall meeting that the city manager put on over at Terra-Lago. So we got to touch a little bit about earthquake preparedness. They've asked me to come back, so I've scheduled a date to go back out to Terra-Lago's HOA, and we're going to be doing earthquake preparedness program with them coming up August 8th, Elaine. So and I've already made contact with that. Palmdale Estates has given me a copy of their emergency preparedness plan. So I've got a date with them next week, and we're going to sit down and we're going to go over that plan with them and just give them any tips or tricks that can help them. But just reviewing that document, they've covered a lot of their bases already. During the music festivals, we went and activated the EOC to a management watch status. So during those 3 weeks, we've doubled the population of Indio. So therefore, I felt with the collaboration with Mr. Trujillo as well as Mr. Montgomery, we decided that we were going to go on management watch. So we were going to be prepared. I'm glad we did, because we did have to shuttle some equipment down there when the temperatures rose. So we did that. Our sheltering trailers, we have 2 sheltering trailers that are capable of sleeping 100 people. We've got 2 of those trailers. I went and cleaned them and inventoried them, and they're ready for response throughout not just the city of Indio, but anywhere they might be needed throughout the Coachella Valley. And while the music festivals were going on, we pre-positioned those down at the polo grounds in the event that they had a significant wind event, that we could kind of help with sheltering those. We've gone through and we've inventoried and assessed our AEDs, our automated external defibrillators. We've noticed that some of them need to be replaced, so we ordered up a bunch of those. And we're just waiting for those. They're waiting on a chip from China, believe it or not. So as soon as those we're going to be making sure that all of our Ds are the same platform. And not only that, the important thing is they're plug and play with our paramedics. So they're a Zoll AED. Our paramedics carry the Zoll monitors. So if we're using an AED on an individual, when the paramedics get there, they just unplug it from our machine, put it in their machine, so they don't have to put more pads on the patient. So that's always a plus for that. We're continuing with the red backpack for our employees, our new employees. This is a backpack we give our employees that it will be for 2 people for 72 hours. And they're encouraged to expand on that based on the number of individuals that are within their family. So I give them a list of things they can add to that, but we give them enough stuff that they can survive for 2 people for 72 hours.
How about us?
I missed that one. You want me to make it for 4 days?
You don't want us to survive?
I went through these backpacks. I don't think I can survive on the little squares they give you. So, in addition to that, we're going to continue to offer training to our employees, the residents, internal and external opportunities are there. I hate telling anybody no. When they contact my office, I always get back to them. It might take a couple of days, but I always get back to them, and I will get them an answer and point them in the direction. If I can't help them, I will point them in the direction in which they need to go. In addition to the website, Sabi, can we back it up one? There is a link. Do you need this? There's a link on there that's ready.gov, and that's part of that calendar that I put on there. They can click on any one of those months, and it'll give them the monthly topic as well as links that are very helpful. But ready.gov is that it goes. Yeah, we got to go up a little bit more. Just go all the way to the top. So, and that's where this calendar comes from, is the ready.gov, and I believe that website is actually in this page somewhere in there. There's a lot of links at the very end, I believe, that once you go down, this was easier to do on my computer, believe it or not. So once we go all the way down, you'll see all the other links that are available. A lot of good information here. This is why I'm telling everybody, go to our website and look at this. I give them ideas. But here's all the other websites that they can click on and get more information. But that www.ready.gov that you see there in the middle is a very good link. So, other than that, I am the resource for all things EOC. Any questions? Okay, because puck drops at 7 o'clock.
No, I know. Don't remind me. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that when you first came in, I know you were our firefighter, for CAL FIRE for many years, and I appreciate all your work. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something before something happened for people to realize how much the city's actually put into a plan and how much resources we actually have together. And thank you for what you do. And if we can do anything to help you to spread the word out, please let us know.
I'm trying to get the word out as much as possible, and we are. We've got a grant coming that we've been approved for. I believe we did a proclamation for I'm thinking of a legal word, but we've already passed it. But that's going to help us update our emergency operations plan. That's what we're going to be working on next. So we're going to bring that up to date. Other than that, it's been a great opportunity, and I'm here. I love it. This is Indio 2.0, as most of you guys know. I started with the city of Indio in 1985, and I'm back.
Oh, nice. Well, welcome back. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Council.
Scott,
and thank
maybe
you for
you
the presentation.
can give us maybe it's something like a little flyer or something with the websites on it. I mean, a lot of us have social media. We run in a lot of different circles. Send it out to our HOAs just to prepare them to get up. There's some great information that you've got on there.
Yeah.
The more prepared our HOAs are, the better off we will all be. So
Absolutely.
let us help you get the word out.
I'm going to be working with Mr. Trujillo, and I've got some ideas about social media with emergency preparedness, and we're going to see if we can put some of those into play with the help of our IT team. But other than that, thank you very much. Have a great time. I would like to stay, but I got to go get a parking spot and get my seats.
Have fun. Right. If there's no objection, I actually wanted to move an item on the agenda up. The 10.2 item for the budget. I may have to leave early. I'm not going to the hockey game. I'm just not feeling well today, so I'd appreciate if we could take that on a little earlier than anticipated. Good.
The budget itself.
Do we need a motion for that, or just move it up?
So I think that the mayor can move it on the agenda as long as there's no opposition from the council.
I think we have a policy that no public hearing will start before 6 p.m. I don't know if it's a policy or an ordinance, but
We never have before.
So in looking at our agenda, usually I go by either the public hearing notice that was issued, or I look at the agenda, because some agendas will say public hearings start at this time.
Yeah, it used to say it.
So I'm not
Sabi
seeing,
remembers.
I'm not seeing that posted on the agenda. I'm not aware of that policy, but the city clerk may.
That's correct. As long as it's noted, the time was posted for 5 o'clock.
It was posted, okay.
So I think you're clear then, Mayor Protem.
Thank you. All right. And who's presenting on that one?
Well, I'll turn the time over to Assistant City Manager and Director of Finance, Rob Rockwell, but that gives me an opportunity to thank him, his staff, as well as all of those within the city team that helped make this happen. Rob carries the heaviest load, but there are many others, and what is presented to you tonight are hours and hours and hours of effort. So thank you, Rob, and your team.
Thank you, Brian. There is a PowerPoint presentation that's prepared. Tonight, staff hopes that the council will adopt the fiscal year 23-24 operating and capital improvement budget. The budget has been boxed and wrapped, but you know what's inside because what's in here is exactly as we discussed on May 17th. 250 glorious pages in here, and when you go through the document, you'll see there's a transmittal letter from the city manager. There's 5 resolutions we'll talk about a little bit more. 22 pages of budget summary with tables and charts to entertain you. There are 15 budget schedules that are designed to provide 360-degree views of all the funds within the city. There's an authorized position list, and there is a CIP plan section. It summarizes the capital improvement program plan as well as their project details. Beyond the CIP, I would never say the budget is boring, but I will say it's very standard, very, very rollover as far as basic service levels. And I have a few slides that I'll summarize the budget for you tonight at a very high level. So starting with the budget, I've broken it up here into 3 sections. The general fund section, other capital improvement operating funds, and then fiduciary funds. And the general fund, of course, stands alone. It's a very large fund for discretionary spending. The request is $134.8 million in transaction authority. That's one fund. The other operating and capital improvement funds, that's about 100 funds that accumulate to $191 million in spending authority. And the fiduciary fund category, those are the budgets for the housing authority, all the authorities, the finance authority, the housing authority, the successor agency, and about 16 Melrose districts that the city is a custodial of. And then underneath there, you'll see each of those appropriations is supported by expected revenue next year. And then most of them are using some sort of fund balance, and that means resources that were collected in the prior year. The budget, of course, is a reflection of spending limits. It also is a reflection of the policy the council sets, but it's also a reflection of a magnitude of transactions. So what I have at the bottom, all those funds together equate to a $361 million transaction plan, and that's a lot of activity. And I just wanted to kind of reflect that against some prior year budgets. So the budget from 5 years ago, that was $181.8 million. And 10 years ago, 126.9. So you can see that the magnitude of the budget here is quite a bit larger than it was in prior years. A large part of that is due to the capital project funding. You'll see that at the fund balance use the next year, as proposed, will be about $92.7 million. And the most significant part of that are bond resources that were received in the prior year that will be spent next year for the Public Safety Campus, City Hall project, and library. A budget not only is it authority to spend, but it also includes authority to move resources across different funds. So, for example, we'll receive revenue in the general fund. It will budget it as a transfer out to the capital project fund. It's received in the capital project fund as a transfer in, and then it's expended in the capital project fund. So in this slide, what we've done is we've taken out all these internal transfers, which is about $84 million worth of activity that happens in the overall $360 million budget. So stripping out that $84 million here, it gives you more of a better view of what truly is the inflows and outflows of resources in the budget. So here you can see that once you strip out about $84 million in transfers, the true spending is about $276.9 million. And that can be broken down between purchase services, which is about 24% of the budget, 18% is salary and benefits, 55% is capital asset spending next year, and about 3% is operational expenditures. using the same methodology, if you look at revenue and you take out the transfers, you could say that actual cash coming into the city is $184 million. The most significant source of revenue, of course, it shouldn't be surprising, it's 56% tax revenue that's coming in. That's going to generate about $103 million in revenue. The second largest source is intergovernmental, that's federal and state money coming in. That's about 22%, and then we have, of course, fees and charges, 15%. Use of money and property, that's rental and concession revenue. License and permits at 2%, and then less than 1% from other revenue sources, miscellaneous, and also fines and forfeitures. You might notice that in the category of an intergovernmental revenue, there's a slight drop from last year. That's because last year we received the American Rescue Plan Act money, federal funding of about $20 million. That's not reoccurring. Switching the perspective a little bit, going from the citywide view to just looking at the general fund. The next few slides focus on the general fund. So the general fund expenditure plan totals $134.8 million. 46% of that, about $62 million, will go to pay for purchase services. In the category of purchase services, that includes $18 million for the fire contract, service contract. There's insurance that's built into that. There's $10.3 million in road maintenance contracts that's in there. And the other most significant piece is about $6.5 million that services provided to the music festival events that happen next year. And there is an extra event next year planned in October. About 28% of the expenditures, about $38 million is dedicated to salary and benefits. 23% is dedicated to assets and debt spending. That again, a lot of that is to cover the capital improvement program, and about 3%, $4.2 million is dedicated to operational costs, and those are basically materials and supplies. Looking at revenue here, revenue is broken down, expenditures are broken down by department and by function. So if you look at the chart here, you can see that combined between police and fire, it's about $63 million of the total budget, about 47%. That percentage of general fund spending is a little bit down proportionally this year, only because a large portion is dedicated to capital projects. Typically, public safety is over 50% of the budget. Looking at these categories, a couple stand out. If you look at the non-department and debts portion at the bottom right, almost $27 million. That's money that's $18 million that's being transferred out to support the CIP. There's $2.9 million in there for one-time property buys. And there's about $1.6 million that's in that budget for various tax abatements. Particularly in the Measure X category, $18.5 million. I want to point out that $4 million of that is dedicated to the CIP. $10.3 million is dedicated to road maintenance next year. It's enhanced up above the 4.5 that was approved during the study session or discussed. And then $4.2 million of the Measure X money is dedicated to debt. Now, the ultimate debt will be closer to $7 million, but we don't have the whole debt expense until the assets are built. Of course, the public safety campus buildings are almost built. City Hall and the library will be around the corner, so it'll probably be about 18 months, 2 years before we have to pay the full amount of the debt out of Measure X, and that'll be $7 million, about $3 million more than we're paying today. Looking at general fund revenue, we're expecting $115.3 million in revenue. The majority of that, again, coming into the general fund is tax revenue, 75%. The second most significant source is fees and charge revenue. The biggest pieces of that are $6.5 million coming through the festival services that are provided. 2.5 of that is ambulance services, the fees that we collect. Within the use of money category, there's $3.2 million coming in related to the ticket sales for these music events. There's about $900,000 in rental of space across the city owns. And then about $3 million that's coming through franchise, waste franchise, cable franchise, gas franchises. And I'll just note that Schedule 7 in the budget has all the granular revenue detail you could ask for. So if you want to reference the schedule and see how much the city expects in alarm permit revenue versus building permit revenue versus vehicle code fines, to school resource officers, to fire inspections, it's all there. That detail is in the budget. Certainly while the one-time spending is up quite a bit for the CIP, I don't want to get lost in the fact that we are in a growing economic environment and our revenue is still increasing. So in this chart, you can see just specifically how the revenue have grown over the last 7 years. You can see by the fluctuations in the charts how strongly these are influenced by the economy. One of the big challenges of government budgeting is that the revenues fluctuate. And if you plan right, you keep the service levels consistent through that type of turbulence. And the city's been really good at that, putting money in reserves. Even though we haven't been able we haven't had to use the reserves, we've been able to manage the budget without big swings in service levels. But you can see some significant changes here. You can see how strong sales tax is growing post the pandemic, and that is Measure X and Bradley Burns sales tax. In the property tax category, been very consistent growth. That includes regular property taxes and property tax in lieu of vehicle license fees, a swap the state made a couple decades ago. You see a lot of fluctuant, okay. In transient occupancy taxes. That, of course, had a big impact during the COVID. There's been a strong recovery there, driven a lot by short-term rentals. And then you see pretty consistent growth in the utility users tax category. Good news on the revenue front. As recommended in the budget, there's funding that supports 293 full-time positions. That's up 4 from what the council approved last year. 2 were actually approved during the year. There's 2 facility maintenance positions that are incorporated in the budget for you to consider tonight. The budget also supports 73 sworn police officers. That's no change from what was previously funded. 9 elected officials, 33 appointed commissioners, 9 part-time positions, and again, the 2 facility maintenance workers. When you adopt the budget tonight, staff's asking you to adopt 5 resolutions. Resolution 10365 is authorizing the transaction, the total budget of $360 million. Resolution 10366 approves the CIP plan and also approves the use of the development impact fees for a handful of those projects, 8 in this next year's plan. Resolution 10367 confirms that spending derived from tax revenue is within growth limitations. You might be surprised, but the state laws actually limit how much the city can spend. It can't spend all of its tax revenue if the tax revenue growth is more than a certain limit. So the resolution just confirms that the city of Indio is not in a situation where it has to limit its spending because the tax growth has been too aggressive. Resolution 10368 adopts a new classification and compensation plan. That document is actually in your budgetary, your book as, this page is Roman numeral page 19. And of course, that classic compensation plan is required to be adopted formally every year. It's a document that PERS uses. It's also used by various public reporting entities. The structure of the compensation plan is so that when you look at it, you can see the classifications. The ones that are indented are the ones that have changed through the year, or there's a requested change proposed to you tonight, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So sometimes during the year, a classification will be studied by Human Resources. It's viewed that it's out of the market, and there'll be an adjustment. Specifically, tonight, the law requires that any changes to executive level at-will pay be read aloud in a public meeting. So there are 7 proposed changes that I would like to read for you tonight that I'll have to read before you be able to consider them with the budget tonight. So if you just bear with me for 1 second, I'll read those as quickly as I can. The proposed salary level for the Assistant City Manager and Finance Director, the minimum would be $15,011.14 a month, the maximum of $21,122.12. For the Deputy City Manager, the minimum would be $13,585.99 minimum, and the max would be $19,116.86 per month. For the Director of Community Development, the minimum would be $12,309.53. The maximum would be $18,186.83. For the Director of Economic Development, the minimum would be $12,309.53. The maximum would be $18,186.83. For the Human Resource Director, the minimum would be $12,309.53. The maximum would be $18,186.83. Again, that's per month. The Director of Public Works, the minimum would be $12,309.53. The maximum would be $18,186.83. And lastly, for the General Manager, which is the Water Authority, the minimum would be $13,963.85, and the maximum would be $19,648.48 per month. And of course, those are changes to salary levels. Those aren't necessarily changes in pay. All the at-will employees' pay is subject to evaluation from the city manager. Okay, the last resolution is 2004-24, and it adopts the budget for the Indio Housing Authority. That budget for the Housing Authority is a bit modest, a little bit less than it was last year. The budget covers some staffing costs and some moderate operational costs. Okay, getting close to wrapping up. So the budget is all about projects. Projects is what I have here. So in your budget, I don't have a listing outside of the budget, but if you go to that section, of course, there is the summary. There's $114.5 million in capital improvement program plan projects. 60% of those projects are being supported by the general fund. We have a total about $69 million. About half of that money was provided to the CIP fund last year. So this year, in order to fund the city's portion, general fund portion, it's another $33 million that'll be transferred in. All of that has been built into the budget. Of course, that list is in your budget, and I know that staff has a few extra copies of the CIP plan if you need to look at it if you don't have your budgetary document in front of you. But that does include my summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions before or after the public hearing.
Thank you. And thank you for all your work and your staff's work in keeping us fiscally responsible and growing in a great, responsible way here in the city. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I'll wait till
Wait till after? Okay. All right, after. All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
Not Mayor. No comments,
public
sorry.
comments? All right, thank you. Anything else? Good.
I have questions.
Question? Go ahead.
He closed it.
Oh, no, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing.
Thank you, Director of Finance, right? That's who you are tonight? Do we have a reserve? I thought we had a reserve policy. I noticed in your narrative that you talked about the standard of 15%, but I thought we had a reserve policy.
We do have a reserve policy that does stipulate that we set aside at least 15% of ongoing discretionary revenue. And there is $1 million dedicated to that reserve that I didn't mention, that'll bring it up to 18, and that is in excess of the 15% threshold. So I think it's about 16 or 17%, so it's just over the policy requirement.
Okay, thank you. And what is it that we're going to spend the PEG funds on?
So I assume a lot of that will go into the audiovisual for the new city hall.
Okay. And Mr. Wessel, I always go straight to your section.
The most expensive section.
It's the most colorful section, too. Some of the projects said TBD. And in our last conversation, we prioritized some of the projects that we wanted to bring out of the extra money somewhere. But what does TBD mean at this point? That you will get back to us this fiscal year with the date? Or I just don't like leaving things TBD. There was a lot of TBDs.
So the TBD that you're looking at, is that?
It was all across TBD. There was no dates.
Capital improvements?
On capital improvements, yeah. On this individual sheets.
Okay.
The individual sheets. Each
Okay.
project sheet, because I was looking project by project.
Yeah, so we were building that really, really quickly, and I think we didn't have enough time to come up with schedules and stuff like that. But a lot of these projects with Mr. Montgomery here, they're going to be GSD. They're going to be done.
Brian, as long as we told you
fast.
that we wanted them above the line, are they like this next fiscal year?
Those that are able to be, most capital projects seem to take a year or two. But yes, I wanted Tim to mention that we will have a CIP dashboard that will be available. And all of these projects will be plugged in, and those estimated milestones and timelines will be updated. So anyone in the community would be able to track each one of those projects. He's right, though. I think some of these we have not quite pegged. There's so many of them as to where they will fit in. If there's one in particular that you'd like to draw your attention to, I'm just going to scan those
My
lists.
dog park.
I would think through a design and a construction process, it could be completed within this fiscal year. Yes.
Yeah, I did visit your website because you sent us the link already, but there were too many TBDs for me. So is this going to be like a regular update, or Mr. Wassel, like, do we have staff time dedicated to come up with a schedule, or?
Yes.
How are we're going to do that?
Yes, we're meeting on this regularly, and we'll update them as we go.
So I don't have to wait another fiscal year to find out what TBD means?
No.
Because I won't be here in another fiscal year, will I?
No.
You'll be here.
Yeah, you'll be here.
Yeah, you got one more.
I got one more year. So it has to be done before I leave. And I see you're going to get Avenue 44 completed after, what, 15 years? Thank you. The only other capital improvement topic that I saw in, this is more Mr. Montgomery. I've heard conversations, but I don't think that we've made a decision to do it, but it's on the Tim's CIP list, is York Park demolish of the gazebo. I really am opposed to that, and we've never had a conversation about that. So I don't like seeing something on a CIP that we haven't had a discussion about.
Well, I believe we probably had 2 or 3 general discussions, and that's why we put it into the recommended approved above-the-line projects, and it was in there.
Was it?
It is, but to clarify the project, and it is under design, but at least on a conceptual basis, it would take roughly half the park.
Yeah, but there's so much parking to the south and to the west. Why are we taking away a park that was dedicated to a man already? That's kind of, that's bad on behalf of the city to take back something that has been dedicated to somebody.
I'll leave that up to you. However, the park would still remain under the conceptual design, the rock, the memorial area. The gazebo, if the parking lot is built, would go. A good share of the trees would stay. There's some trees in the perimeter of the area. But again, I would say roughly half of the turf area. So most of the gazebo area would be gone, and then everything north of that would remain as is. So could it still be called York Plaza? Could the rock and memorial still be there? That's what we're designing to.
Can you relocate the gazebo?
It's in various stages of
age.
disrepair.
I feel uncomfortable going back on
I had the
dedication.
I had the same conversation. Doug York was pretty phenomenal, and certainly
Well,
in
he
this
was one of our
community,
s-
but
one of our
founding fathers,
city
yeah.
fathers that created the city of Indio, and now we want to take it back?
Well, it's a structure, the monument, I mean, you gotta think
Well, I
of the
was
fact
mayor
that.
when I dedicated it to him. He was there.
Yeah, it's a structure. We have to remember the memory, we have to have the monument, and we have to recognize that one of the things that Doug York wanted to see, he and Dick Freestad and others, was a very vibrant area in downtown, which is
Right.
what he's getting, and therefore requires significant amounts of parking.
I agree, but look at, we got, but how much? A half acre on the south, another half acre on the west, and you're going to take away my park to get 25 more spots. It just doesn't make sense.
If 3 of you vote for it, we will
So when does that happen?
today.
Well, then I appeal to my colleagues. How would you feel if I named a park Oscar Ortiz Park, and 15, 20 years from now, I say, you know what, I'm just going to put a parking lot there? How would you feel? I mean, especially if you had a major impact on how our city evolved. That, to me, is sacrilegious, and I have taken this position before. It's not new. You know, we have a policy for naming things because they're important. We went through a process to name this park, and now to turn around and say, oh, we're going to get rid of the gazebo, which was what I dedicated to Mr. York, because we want to put asphalt that we don't need. We don't need it. I mean, you guys can go stand in the south side for the next 7 days and see how many cars park there. 0. How many park on the west side? Maybe 5, because it's City Hall people. But there is way too much parking around the IPAC, and you're going to take away a dedicated park to a city father.
If it helps, before the other council members jump in, we could bring back a more refined conceptual view. So it's included in the budget if you adopt it this evening. And we could bring that back to you, and you could say, we do like it or we don't, because it may surprise you how much will remain.
We don't need more parking.
Yes, we do.
No, we
I beg
don't.
your pardon. I've got 5 restaurants coming into downtown. I've got 16,000 College of the Desert students rolling
Okay,
in
but
the
they're not gonna
not-too-distant
park over there
future.
at the gazebo.
There's going to be overflow and the need for parking all over the place, particularly in the greater downtown
But we have
area.
everything under Jackson, we have everything south of IPAC, including the little grass where the food truck is, including the grass right here by City Hall. There are so many other areas.
There's conversation, we have Desert Beer, we have Avenida Music, we have,
new amphitheater.
I know, but that position, that
we
land
have
location
a tap
is not
house.
critical.
I hear you about Doug York. I mentioned that with the city manager, and what he came up with was fine with me. But we need the parking in our city. In fact, if we could put up a couple of parking structures, I would support
We
it.
had a parking study before you got here. And the study, if you'll pull it out and take the dust off of it, said that we were like 25% over-parked, even if everything downtown developed.
I haven't seen that study.
Well, it's here. We've paid for 100 studies since I've been here. They're all there collecting dust, and nobody ever looks at them. We are overparked in the downtown, even at full build-out.
I would professionally disagree, but that's up to you. This has been placed on the agenda based on the direction, I forget exactly whom, it may have been Councilmember Miller, others in this setting. So we included in the.
And I'm going to tell Mr. York you did it.
At the pearly gates.
I'm going to tell him.
I love W. York. He was a great man. I served on a planning commission with his son, God rest his soul, and it was the right thing to do at the right time, but it's not in the right location with what we want to do. It's a disrepair. It's in a prime location next to areas that we're going to try to utilize with our IPAC. We have, the new transportation center hopefully across the street from it. We have the living park that we're going to go in for concerts. We have the new restaurants. I think we need to move that to somewhere where it might be utilized, but that's just such a prime. If we were to tell anybody else that in a prime spot of our city, we're going to put a gazebo up there in a grass area that nobody uses, you look at us like we're crazy. At the time, it was great. If you want to move it or build a new one, I would say would be better somewhere else, Miles Park or wherever else. I'm good with it. I just think that we need to utilize it. Even if we do put that there, I just think it's going to turn into what it is now, is with a lot of
No,
homeless.
not if the downtown's activated. Basically, you're saying you prefer to have asphalt over green spaces.
No.
If we have a fully activated downtown, you want everybody to be in their cars or in a building and no outside spaces for them to enjoy
With
at the
Miles
outside.
Park, with History
No,
Museum.
we're talking about downtown. We're
We've
talking about
got
downtown.
stuff in the city,
If
right
you
around
don't-
City Hall.
If you don't have places for people to park, to go into that brewery, to go into the Skip and
Okay,
Romans.
go to LA, go to Irvine.
But we don't want to be LA.
Well, that's what we're going to be with all that's happening in the development.
We're talking one little park on a
No,
corner of
we're
a
not.
prime location
No, it's
next
not.
to our IPAC theater, our new brewery.
Which
and
needs
other
help,
things
that's
going
right.
in that we haven't announced yet. I think it's a prime spot.
Okay,
If
you
it
guys
helps,
will regret it.
if it helps with the discussion, it's estimated at $200,000 for that asphalt parking lot, kind of wedging about halfway into the York Plaza. If it's included in the budget tonight, as it appears it would be, we will still bring back that conceptual plan.
No need. If 4 people want it, I really would rather not see it.
Okay.
And I'd rather not know about it. And just sad for the city that we're doing that.
Yeah, I think in the end, though, if it's done, and we work to preserve as much of that turf, as many of those trees as possible, as well as the memorial,
Well, all the palms
hopefully
are
you'll
up
feel
against the parking lot now.
Pardon me?
All the palm trees are up against the parking lot
Yeah,
now.
that would be a divider between 2 halves of a parking lot, so those would remain in the conceptual.
I would like to see the conceptual come back, just.
Well, you can have a private
Curiosity,
meeting with
yeah.
Mr. Montgomery.
You know what, I'm going to support, what do you need, city manager, to move this in one form or fashion or another?
We haven't talked about the whole budget yet.
Right,
I think we have
okay.
Good sense of
just on that, yeah.
I don't want to come back. I think we should do the parking lot personally.
It doesn't need to come back.
I want to see it, so yeah.
Well, just have a meeting with him.
You guys want to see it?
No.
No?
It's a stupid little parking lot.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm good.
Sure. Well, we got consensus to move forward, so we'll just move on. Any other questions, suggestions? Mr. Miller?
Nope.
I have one, just like to see, like to ask for our council support in delaying the golf course clubhouse funding. I did go and check out the clubhouse and see in what state the facilities were in. They were usable. I didn't see anything immediately necessary there. I think a year or two delay would be okay. I think some of the projects that we have listed on there would be a bit more beneficial to our community. I did do some outreach as well and got some positive feedback for that transition of funding. So the projects that I'm proposing to replace those 4.5 million would be the dog park at Kauai Park, which we're always getting requests from residents saying that we don't have enough dog parks, so I think that would be great. The fiber optic installations, which will be good because that'll help us go out for federal funding so that we can get fiber optic to a lot of low-income areas such as the Jewel neighborhood, which needs that kind of capacity. And also with a lot of people working from home now, I think that's really a necessity to have good internet speeds in that area or in all of our city. Number 3 would be the undergrounding of utilities, which we have as an option there as well to prevent the power outages like the ones we saw this year with the windstorms, very high winds this year, which caused some power outages in downtown and other areas. The other 2 would be solar covered parking at the senior center and teen center, especially for our seniors during the really hot months. This will be really helpful in avoiding some of those extreme heat temperatures. Will also save us money on electricity and reduce our strain on the grid. And you know, right now we actually had to deny a proposal from somebody that wanted to put chargers in our city because there wasn't enough power. So this kind of infrastructure would help us in being able to accept those kind of proposals and have more charging stations within our community. The other item would be covered parking canopies at various parks, again helping make it more comfortable for families to make those trips to the park during the hotter times of the year. And the other one would be the traffic signal at Arabia and Dr. Carrion, where our traffic studies already tell us that traffic signal is necessary in that area. So all those 6 projects would equal to the 4.5 million. That would be the same as the golf course funding.
We had this conversation last time, and I didn't agree with everything that was above the line, but I respect the fact that there was consensus. And I guess Doug York got consensus too. So I'm having to swallow a very bitter pill, and I think you should too.
Okay. Anyone else?
So the answer is no.
That's your answer is yes.
I think that we looked this through. I would say if some of those projects can be moved up, we can move them up and look at them. But I think with what we know, which we haven't announced, the other improvements going on there, we have the other developer building other things, that $4.5 million investment is a good investment now because of the cost that's going to go up and what we all know that we haven't announced yet that's going to be built around it and being built now. It makes sense to go in there and do it before we do all the other construction from the projects coming in to do it now. If some of those other projects you want to do, I don't have a problem looking at them, but I think we need to stick to the plan, why we have the builders here and everybody else doing it. But they are good ideas. I think we could incorporate some of them in.
You know, there's some things like the fiber optic plan that I would agree with you on, but I think that Clubhouse is very, very important. We have so many of the groups, gosh, from Indio High School, Coachella Valley High School, from the First Tee that play there, that would like to hold more tournaments there. If you speak with Landmark Golf, a new clubhouse to include something larger than a 4-foot by 4-foot post office would be a benefit to our community, not to mention an economic driver. So I continue to support that.
I just, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I'll jump in, and I agree with some of the mayor's sentiments, maybe in different contexts. And the reason why I say that is we do need to continue to fund Davis Field. The last couple of years, I think we've been making a concerted effort to do that. We did allocate some funding to go there. And if you drive there now, there are some improvements taking place. So the conversation has been had. Are we there where I think we need to be as far as facilities? No. But I think we could get there. And I hope we continue to find funding or means to get it there. I don't necessarily agree with removing funding from one particular project, this one, and dispersing it to these others that I don't feel are not less important, but I think we have an opportunity here as far as economic development in our community. If you look at a 2 miles square radius of the area, we have Home Depot, we have Texas Roadhouse coming in, which is almost complete. I want to put the cart in front of the horse, but it's on our development dashboard. There's plans already submitted for Chick-fil-A, which is one of the most popular and fastest growing and quick service restaurants in our nation. And right down the street, you also have Cane's coming in, and which is another one, along with 2 Starbucks and a Subway. So if you look at all these folks that are coming to this area, we need to continue to find ways to generate revenue for that rainy day and sustainable revenue in our community. And so when folks are coming in, or we have folks from other communities who are at one of our restaurants or at the golf course, I want them to spend as much time in that area and dropping dollars in that area, because what it allows us to do, it allows us to go back and fund our Miles Park, our Davis Fields, road infrastructure projects. And so I agree with what the mayor is saying, that we need to continue to fund these projects, and I hope we could go out and find whether it's energy funding, federal funding, or state funding, or parks grants, which we've been successful doing, to fund some of these needs and wants. But to remove the funding for this project, I don't support that at this moment. I think we have opportunity before development slows. You know, we're in a good spot right now. You know, we've been moving pretty fast the last couple of years as far as development. And I don't know about everyone on the dais or everyone who has experience in local government, but I've never seen cities move this fast. But you know what? Sometimes good things do come to an end, and there's going to be a moment when we slow down. And sometimes you need to invest to generate revenue, and I think there's an opportunity to do that. So I know it was long-winded, I'm sorry, but that's where I stand on that.
So that's a no to the changes?
Yes.
Okay.
No to the changes.
But I hope you got it.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to clarify, and Mr. Wassel reminded me as well, at the conclusion of the study session, when we went through above the line and below the line, there was the request that we find the funding to get the fiber optics project above the line. So it is funded in the budget that's presented here.
But we took money out of the streets for that, right?
That was part of the reduction. We found some otherwise as well. So the streets went down 400,000, I believe. The traffic signal on Arabia and Dr. Carrion as well is within a census tract that will allow us to use CBDG funds. So the proposal is to present that to you next year as part of that federal funding. So that one is also on the horizon. I just wanted to make sure that you're aware of those two facts.
Thank you. Well, you know, I would really, I don't support that just because the necessity in those neighborhoods. I know what it's like to have power lines overhead and have your power go out because of that. I know what it's like to have very slow internet and have, you know, community members that are really concerned about that. So would we be able to separate those votes into 2 different votes and take the capital improvement projects into a different vote? Yes, if you wanted to take a vote on the capital improvement resolution separately from the vote on the other resolutions, that would be acceptable, Mayor. But the capital improvement resolution, is that the same as the capital improvement projects that we have in that?
It approves the plan in general.
Okay.
So that resolution number, which one is that?
10366.
So 10366 could be voted on separately per your request.
Okay. Can we go, I'll entertain a motion for 10366 if we would be able to separate that out for 2 votes.
Where's it at?
Are you looking to pull so the projects are pulled one by one, or just the overall vote itself? So you want to approve the budget, but you want to separate, so it could be 5-0 on one and 4-1 on the other. That's what you're saying? Okay, I get it. I'm fine with that. That's how you want to do it.
You want to make that motion?
Well, let's go back. What are we doing here?
So we're going to vote first on just the capital improvement plan, which includes that golf course funding, and then we'll go back and vote on the rest of the items there, which include the rest of our budget. For city budget.
Okay. So the first thing would be a motion to approve resolution 10366. The second motion would be to approve the remaining resolutions on item 10.2.
I'll make a motion then to adopt resolution number 10366, adopting capital improvement program for fiscal year 23-24.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miller and a second from Councilmember Holmes. Can we get a vote, please?
One more? Oh, thank you.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. And then we'll entertain a motion for the rest of the resolutions on item 10.2.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 10365, adopting the fiscal year 2023-2024 operating capital budget for the fiscal year, for the city of Indio. And resolution number 10367, determining and estimating the city of Indio's appropriations limit for fiscal year 2023-24. And resolution number 10368, approving a citywide classification and compensation plan. And resolution number 2023-14, adopting the fiscal year 2023-2024 operating budget for the Indio Housing Authority.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miller and a second from Councilmember Holmes. Can we get a vote, please? Zero? Is that 4-0 or 5-0?
Yep, I'm not.
Somebody didn't vote.
Wayman's isn't working.
So it's
Is that a
5-0?
yes?
5-0?
Well, yes. Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And we'll go back to our,
So did we vote on 10.1?
no.
No, we just did
pulled
10.2.
the- I want to do that first in case I got to head out. So now I think we're going to go back to reports on meetings attended. Ms. Holmes, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I had a pretty light schedule these last couple of weeks, but there were some interesting things going on. I attended with the mayor both the Dr. Carry-On graduation and with Councilmember Miller as well. Great graduation by the Dr. Carry-On Foundation. I don't remember exactly how many of these kids graduated, but this particular scholarship really helps students move on. The students I was sitting next to, I think one was going to UC Berkeley and the other one was going to a private university. And these are above 4.0 students receiving the scholarship, and very good speech that you gave at that Dr. Carry-On Foundation graduation. The other thing we attended, I think we almost started dancing at the YMCA preschool graduation. So I have never, certainly they didn't do that when I went to preschool, but they had these little kids at the YMCA, and it's called the Doris Mechanic preschool, and they had kids in their little caps and gowns, little girls, little boys, and they had choreographed dance. But what they were celebrating really was the fact that they graduated preschool, and all the parents. It was very heartwarming. It was very wonderful to see and to watch. Probably my most favorite thing of the entire year, to watch these little kids with little caps and gowns. I can't talk today. Besides that, I went to Second Saturday Night. It's more fun. It's fun to see the stage up. I drove by, came to a screeching halt as I saw cranes up and all kinds of activity happening. Very exciting. In the next couple of months, our stage will be ready, restaurants will be open, and we'll be rocking and rolling in some form or fashion. So I can't wait. Mayor, that's end of my report.
Thank you. Mr. Furman?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a relatively light report as well. I did have a Coachella Valley Economic Partnership meeting this morning, and during the meeting, I had a presentation by some folks working out of the Palm Springs iHub, and they presented a app that is centered around helping family members who take on caregiving for loved ones. And it's an app that will show you how to set up power of attorney, funding, and it also gives you a safe space where you can work with family members to put that village around that family member and garner support during a challenging time. And it was one of these things where I think it makes resources very attainable and accessible. And it's not one of these things to where some of us might go through it. I think we all experience it one time or another with a loved one or a family member, and we all have those moments where there's the unknown, So it was a really good presentation, and right now the group is called Care Virtue. That's what the app is called, and right now it centers around dementia and Alzheimer's, but they're working on expanding, so it's any illness where they could help, with a journal, a care guide, a calendar, doctor's appointments, a care team. So very interesting work with this app, and that was Coachella Valley Economic Partnership. I did attend this past second Saturday event as well. A lot of fun. And the events keep growing, and like the council member mentioned, we're looking forward to our amphitheater, being finished. You can see it right outside. It's been a while since we've seen so many cranes in our city, but it's a testament to what's going on, the development. So we're excited for that. I also attended the Food Truck Fridays, which is right outside here on Town and Bliss, and that's every Friday from 5 to 10 p.m. A lot of food, a lot of fun. I took my little one, and there's a lot of kids out this Friday. They'll have a water play day where they'll have some water bouncers out there and some more goodies, some more food. So real good. So that's our Food Truck Fridays here downtown. And I also attended the Indio Police Department swearing in of 6 new police officers. So that was very exciting. And, it's not normal to see 6 officers being sworn in at one time. Policing is so hard right now to get officers and get them in there, get them hired and get them on the street. And so for us to get these 6 officers, some all the way through the academy to the street, and some from different cities, it's a testament to the hard work of our chief, our police department, and our recruiting team. So hats off to them. And also congratulations to Sergeant Stanfield, who also was there and received an award. He's retiring from law enforcement after 51 years. 51 years, he's retiring as a sergeant from the city of Indio. So, that is a huge feat, especially in law enforcement. You usually 25 years, 30 years, and you're gone. Sometimes 10 years, but 51 years, 51 years ago, I don't remember much because I wasn't here. So that just shows you how long he's been working. So hats off to him. Congratulations to him, his family, and thank his family for lending him to not only us, but other communities that he's worked in during his tenure in law enforcement. And before I complete, I just want to say happy Father's Day. We just have Father's Day to all the fathers. And we have the 4th of July coming up. So happy Father's Day. We do have legal fireworks in our community. And there'll be some fireworks, I believe, at Fantasy Springs. I don't have the date, but there'll be some that's around the community. So thank you, Mayor.
They'll be on the 3rd. Mayor, can I jump in real quick? I wondered if I could make a motion to please close the meeting in honor of Zoila Orlet, please.
Sure, definitely.
And I'll second that if we need a. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only committee that was active is with you. We had the Coachella Valley Waste Transfer Station, which is a joint JPA with the city of Coachella for our waste haul service. A couple of the items on it were our budget, which we approved, which is a funding source for not only the city of Indio, but also the city of Coachella, which we share equally. We're also will bring back a opportunity for a tipping fee for $1.50. We have not done it recently because it expired for the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, which buys property to put it into a trust for conservation. We will bring that back $1.50 per ton to go out. And then also, we will be looking at later on in this meeting to raise the tipping fee up because of the cost that the County of Riverside is charging Burtec for the dumping fees. As the cost of living goes up, the County of Riverside changes its fees, and the City of Indio, who works with Burtec, has to pay the higher fee based on what the county charges us to take out our waste. So that'll be coming forward. Also was at Dr. Carry-On, honored to be on their advisory board. 90 students were given scholarships. If you don't know Dr. Carry-On, we have not only the road named after him, but he was an Indio resident, our first doctor, basically out here to continue to support our hospital. And when he and his wife passed on, they put all their money into a trust to fund Hispanic youth education, higher education. And so this year there was 90 applications. I did about 60 of them that I looked at. There was over 450 outstanding students from all over the Coachella Valley, just not Indio, all over the Coachella Valley. And so far this year they gave out $250,000 and a little over $4 million since they started. So my hat's off to Ricardo Loretta, the board from Dr. Carry-On, and also our students and parents for continuing to reach for higher education. We had the swearing in. Thank you, Chief, for continuing to bring new police officers into our city. A safe city is a prosperous city. 6 new police officers is a major accomplishment in this day and age, especially for a small city like Indio, and with more to come. And then Sergeant Stanfield, after 51 years of law enforcement, he retired, but 44 here in the great city of Indio. And he's 71 years old, and he looks like he's 50. He's just an outstanding individual. He's going to go spend some time with his wife, well-deserved. And then I was also fortunate enough to do the 5330 of Rotary. I'm a Rotarian, have been for many years. Their conference was out here again. The district governor is Don Casper, our very own director of marketing for Fantasy Springs Casino. There was a little over 400 people here that are Rotarians from all over the Riverside County area, and they not only honored Don Casper for a great year, but we're drawing in. So if you're not a part of one of our service groups or volunteering at some of our organizations, there's some great opportunities to help your community. So, Mr. Mayor, that's it, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
I have no report this evening.
No report. All right. So last week I spent 3 days in Ontario for a workshop called Growing Water Smart with the Sonoran Institute. I was joined by Michelle and Ray from our water department, as well as our Planning Commission Chair, and Ruben Perez from Assemblymember Garcia's office. Wanted to thank them for all their hard work. It was a really intense 3 days, so we appreciate your help there. We talked about the current policies we have to reduce our water use, and we also discussed potential changes that would improve our sustainability practices. Some potential changes that we all supported was some change in our landscaping requirements for new developments to include native tree species that would help increase shade and reduce heat islands throughout our city. We also supported changing our turf removal rebates to include additional funds for those who plant native trees in their new landscaping, and we'll be working with staff to get some of that going here in the next couple of months. We also talked about the looming issues of rising costs in water and sewer rates because of the anticipated state policies regarding chromium-6 and recycled water. Our staff agreed to get us some slide decks with necessary information so that we can advocate at the state level to avoid these potential increases or provide funding to mitigate those costs. Last Friday, we recognized Sergeant Robert Stanfield, as was mentioned, for his 51 years of service in public safety, an incredible act of service for our community. We really thank him and wish him a very happy retirement. And we also welcome 6 new officers who are joining our police department, and we look forward to the great things that they'll do with our residents. I also got to attend the graduation at our YMCA at Miles Park and got to see the kids perform some songs and dances there at the preschool. And I was invited to speak at the Dr. Carry-On Scholarship Dinner, where, as Mr. Miller mentioned, $250,000 was awarded in scholarships to 90 local students from around the Coachella Valley. I was also invited to be the speaker at the graduation for Field, which is a continuation school founded by Cesar Chavez. They have been working with Coachella Valley Housing Coalition to provide high school courses to low-income residents who wish to go back to school to finish their high school degrees. Many of the graduates that day work full-time and have families, and some are even grandparents, so congratulations to all of them for all their efforts in getting their high school degrees. I also attended the CVAG Energy and Environment Committee. We talked about a proposed Salton Sea Conservancy, which our committee opposed as was written. We did not think it was smart to add another layer of government to the processes at the Salton Sea, but we do think we could support it if it was focused on operations and management of projects and also included the Salton Sea Authority as its local representation for their governing board. We also got an update on Colorado River negotiations, which thank you to Mr. Hamby, who's advocating on behalf of our state, who's present with us here today. California will be cutting back on 400,000 acre feet per year as part of the new negotiations. And currently, the replenishment has stopped at the East Valley facility, which is about 35,000 acre feet per year to our aquifer. Some of that will be mitigated with additional irrigation projects moving along in the East Valley. And that's all I got, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, which is going to be the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to pull any items?
I have a conflict on item 8.4 to the fact that I have a financial interest in the downtown area, so we can take the rest of the consent and then I'll leave the dais for that.
Okay, any other items? I wanted to pull 8.8. See if we can get a presentation on that one.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Leila Nambar. I'm public art analyst for the City of Indio. Item 8.8 is the Shields Park project. We circulated 3 RFPs. The last one circulated March 7th to April 20th. The budget for that project was increased to $65,000 with the approval of the City Council. We received 2 proposals, one from Babak Joez and the other one from Sarah Dabbo. The Public Arts Commission liked both proposals. The Public Arts Commission recommended to the Council to, if they wish, to choose first proposal, and the other proposal will most likely come back before you. This is the piece from Babak, which will be the face statue. The maximum height will be around 6 feet with the base. It will be made of concrete. It was supposed to be a walking maze, so he's also proposing a walkway from the northeast, which will be a connection to a CV link, so kind of tease the people to come see what is going on at the end of the walkway. This is the concept design. All the proposals comes to us as concept design because we don't give any stipend ahead of time. This is the recommended piece for that, for the Shields Park. The other piece which the Commission liked, and it will come before you, it is this piece, which will include 15 steel panels that will be polished. The colors on this one and also on the maze on the other piece are inspired by the city's branding colors, also resembling somehow rainbow. This will be installed on a concrete pad which looks like a wheel, and it goes outside and come inside. We are going to bring that before you in the future to be placed on the Bravo south of the Bravo area, which is northwest of Avenue 50 and Madison. The Bravo developer is really happy to install this art piece there. The other 2 pieces that we received, we received one piece for, one proposal for the first RFP, which the RFP was asking for a gathering place with shade. We received from Nicole Beck, which is these 2 designs. They're great designs, but it didn't meet the RFP proposal or theme. But again, it's council's wish or discretion if the council would like to use any of these pieces any place in the city. The other piece is this one from Fitzhung Carroll. The RFP was requesting for an outdoor library, but we received only one proposal, which is this one. It wasn't an outdoor library, but again, that's a great piece. It could be installed anywhere in the city if the council wishes. So this is just the history about what happened with that project. With that, the city, the staff would like to suggest to the council if they would like to approve the piece from artist Babak Joyce for Shields Park project for the $65,000 and authorize the city manager and city attorney to execute the agreement for this artwork. That will conclude my staff report. I'd be happy to answer if you have any questions.
Thank you. One question I have is, if, let's say we change one of the projects to be in that location, would it also include that maze that goes to the art piece?
Which project you?
Yeah, the trail that leads to the project?
For the other two pieces, if you choose this one or that one, that was not included in the RFP. So this RFP was only shade structure with gathering. The other was outdoor library. The third one was maze and a sculptural piece.
Gotcha.
So if we do that, we need to go back and basically ask them to redesign.
And I think the reason I just pulled this is it seemed a little strange to have such a colorful maze and piece lead up to something so abstract. Yeah. I didn't think that we might, I'm concerned that we're going to get bad feedback from our community for that, but open to any suggestions or thoughts from our council.
I have a question. I guess put it on the piece that is being proposed. What is it? What is the interpretation, I should ask, because I don't understand it.
So this is an interpretation of a face in a very different way. So just saying that beauty is not what is that we always know from the catalogs of the magazines. So the beauty could be different and diverse. There is a big eye and a big ear and a big nose and a big mouth. So it shows somebody that is looking better than anybody else, smelling better than anybody else, have a big mouth and will listen, but it's in a complete different way, which is not our normal beauty.
And this is the location where the street curves? Yeah.
Correct.
And didn't the last time you came to us for the budget adjustment, you show us something very different, very square, very more in line with the CV link?
I don't recall showing anything as
Was
square.
it just a maze before?
It was a structure that looked like a house of a playhouse. It was square.
The RFP, not this time, the time before supposed to be an outdoor library. So maybe I showed that one as an example of that, which for that one, we received the metal piece, which looks like an owl. So we didn't get anything for an outdoor library, if you're mentioning that.
I guess I just don't understand the library concept. What is that?
So they did a library concept in one of the European cities, which is, it's a shade structure, large, with seating area inside it and shelving. So people basically donate the books there, and then other people in the community go and grab the book and read it. But we didn't get anything for that concept or that theme. We didn't get any proposals.
Not even the one where the people are sitting down reading?
No, that was for the shade structure. That wasn't proposed for the library. This one was for the shade and gathering, which is not much shade. Yeah. And this one was the library, for the library.
So how does the beauty is in the eye of the beholder have to do with the library?
No, these are different proposals.
They're
different
not the
RFPs. She's
library.
just saying, here's some other projects that we've got from
But they're not for the library concept.
No.
They submitted something completely different from the RFP. So that was, because it was against the RFP, didn't follow the RFP, so it wasn't entertained.
So the RFP wasn't for a library?
It was for the library. The submittal was this one, which is not a library.
No, but go back to the one you chose.
No, the one that we chose was the third RFP, which was the maze with a sculpture.
Maze.
With the sculpture at the end of it.
You asked for a maze.
Yes.
And it came before the council. The council approved that as well.
We like the maze, but
we
I
like
think
the maze.
the end of it is what.
So the color actually is rocks within it's a walkway of rocks. So
Yeah.
the rocks, if the council wishes to be more toward gray and earth tone, that could be changed. The reason the artists choose that, it was basically the contrast and using the city branding colors. But we
I
can.
like the colors. I like the maze part of it.
Yeah, me too.
The abstract part
And
of it.
then
I
the
think
other
is a
thing,
little-
the sculpture also could be painted, the concrete could be
I think
painted.
what we're saying is we don't like it.
Oh, you don't like it? Okay.
If the
okay.
paint, if it was
If
painted,
it was painted, it might
it was
be good.
painted a little brown,
No,
there, it kind of
come
looked like me
on.
on there. I mean,
Come on.
but
No, it could be any color, the sculpture.
Yeah.
It would just magnify.
Magnify the beauty is in the beholder.
Mayor, representing staff, perhaps it appears a consensus the council would like us to try again.
Yeah.
If you'll provide that direction, we'll do so, and we'll be able to bring back another option.
Okay.
My only concern, if I could, is the color itself. I'm not in for the rainbow color looking thing, because how do you maintain it? Once it fades, how do you paint it? How is it gonna be done? That's why.
It's DG.
And Lupe, how long you've been here? Almost 20 years now? How many logos and that have we changed from that? When you have that color and the fade and that stuff? I just think that if you're gonna do art, it needs to be something, one, we can maintain and something we don't have to go back and take care of. It's when you start talking colored concrete, they did that up in the walkways in Palm Desert, and then 3 months later, they took it out because it just didn't fit in.
Dang.
So I think coloring concrete, I understand the art piece, but I think with that art piece, you're better off with a rock road or some kind of other entry into it instead of some kind of color piece that throws it off. But, I mean, it is art and its beauty of the beholder, but we have the $250,000 jungle gym at the end of Jackson that we put in there that nobody ever uses and nobody understands it. And to me, $65,000 for this piece, and to put a rainbow up to it of colors to where it is, just doesn't connect. So, with me.
Could we take those concerns back to the Arts Commission?
Oh, we can take it back to the Arts Commission, but to clarify one thing, it's not concrete, it's rocks.
DG.
It's larger than DG, so it's like 2-inch, 3-inch rocks, colored rocks within that area.
So once they get mixed up, unless they're cut down, we'll have to go in and move them or redo them somehow. DG, you have to redo.
It will have a divider, so that inside the divider, it will be those rocks. But we can go back to the Arts Commission. All these 4 works go back, or a new RFP?
All 4.
Well, I like the second one. I like the circular one.
Yeah, but they proposed that one for another study.
So the circular one is a little bit more expensive. It's $100,000, so it's not within that budget. But if the council would like to spend that money, we can definitely.
And this is at the end where the Bravo collection is?
Yeah,
Correct.
that's
Polo ground on the
right.
corner there, and he's happy with the club?
Yes, he's happy with it.
I'm good with putting that there.
Yeah.
That's easy to maintain.
I can handle that. I totally agree. And I don't want this at Shields Park. I think it's good for Bravo Collection.
Yeah, I like to.
Then again, it is the beauty of the pole. Everybody looks at art differently.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm not an artist.
So I'm guessing nobody at the council would like Picasso.
No, I'm just saying, I'm not an artist, but with all due respect, I think when we go out, I want to see something that's like I can relate to. And I know we had a passionate discussion about Doug York, but having stuff like that, I mean, I know we have some old murals that we're replacing, but something that tells our story. I mean, I respect the sculpture, but it's not a fit for that area. I don't think the rocks are. Love the concept. I would love to see the rocks lead up to a sculpture of some children right outside of this Loma Linda area. I think something like that would be feasible with the nice colors and maybe a sculpture of a child right here. But that area is in the corner. Maybe something with some shade, maybe some solar power where you could plug in your phone or electric when you're traveling on CV Link, and you could stop at the park and something like that. I just I don't want to disrespect any artist because I respect the artwork. I just think that that's not the right place for that particular piece.
And I think I'm going off of what you were saying too with that jungle gym, right? That it was a little too abstract and people didn't really enjoy it, right? At least
What it should have been.
the masses of people weren't really enjoying it, right? We got a little bit of pushback on that. So just because it's such a public space, you know, in a museum, I think I would enjoy that, seeing that in a museum, but in such an open public space, maybe something a little bit less abstract that people would,
Something for the families and children?
yeah, something that the children would like too, yeah.
And if I could, Mayor, I think, you know, we put the Art Commission in place for a reason, and I hate to go back and pull
Yeah,
stuff back from them,
me too.
especially if they're work. So I think maybe we need to tell them what we're really looking for in the right places, because obviously people did a lot of work on this.
Yeah.
And put a lot of effort into it, and here we are beating it up and pushing it out because it isn't what we've felt fits into that area. So I think we gotta kind of pull back a little and kind of figure out where we want to give them the reins to be able to do what they need and put it in. Because this is a lot of
Maybe we
work
should have
from
a
a lot of
meeting.
people
Do
putting
we have
stuff
a
in.
meeting scheduled?
Yes, and so there'll be a joint meeting between the Arts Commission and the City Council coming up where that type of discussion can be had, and perhaps some more detailed guidance. However, I believe that if the RFPs are actually a little more general, we might receive more submittals. You know, focusing on just a library may be too restrictive, and then most don't submit to that. So that might be something to discuss as well. But yeah, rather than spend more time, we'd be happy to bring this back. So if this item's either deferred and for some other time, we'll bring back a new proposal.
And if I could, one more time.
Go ahead.
Is it the dollar amount that holds us up? I mean,
It
I know
is
a
the
lot, I
dollar.
know there's a lot of
It
artists
is the
that are being
dollar amount.
through the big cities that they're looking for artwork and they're paying 150,000. I know the city of Indio doesn't have an unlimited budget, but I think I'd rather have 4 good pieces at 100,000 or 150,000 than I would 6 pieces or 7 pieces at 65. You know, if it's trying to get the better artists to come look at it, I'd rather pay the extra money and make sure we get a strategic, beautiful piece that's gonna fit into the area.
Yeah, let's have that conversation with the
Okay.
commission.
But at the same time, Mayor, I mean, if I can make a suggestion, I mean, sometimes we do have our appointed commissioners on there. Nonetheless, I think we need to set aside a time for us to do like what we've done before. We've done workshops with our commissioners and something like that, so we can understand not just our public arts, but our community service and our planning commissioners, so we know what direction we are going these next few years with planning, you know.
Yeah.
So I think this would fall in line with that.
Yeah, and if the issue is budget, then certainly we can have that conversation with the artists, with the Art Commission. We're out of touch. We don't know what's a good budget.
Yeah.
But we also need to prioritize. Is this location really the place that we want to prioritize and put more money? I think not. So, yeah, I think it's a broader discussion.
Narrowing it down to a few.
Where we really want to,
Okay.
because we don't have much money left.
Yeah.
Where do we really want to put our money?
Yeah, it's in the corner. I used to live right there, so it's in the corner. It's kind of hid away. But I think if we can make a play off of CV Link, maybe some solar, and that'll power some cool lights or colors at night or when folks are traveling there, I think that'll be a good play. But it is kind of in the corner, so, but I agree with.
Just one other item for those that are listening and so forth, wondering how this $65,000 or $100,000, these are restricted funds for art. So just for those listening, why is the city council spending this kind of money for these type of things? We cannot spend the money in any other way. So these funds are completely restricted to art. Just want to make sure everyone listening understands that.
Thank you.
Mayor, before I move over, Ms. Nomar, thank you for your work. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. Sometimes
it's a
it can be
tough job.
difficult.
You're welcome, my pleasure.
We appreciate you.
And thank you for all the new murals.
You're very welcome.
Those are looking
And the
good.
utility boxes.
Yeah.
Utility boxes.
Great job.
Okay. So do we need a motion to defer that one?
So you could do a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 8.4, which you're going to consider separately, and 8.8, which you can just not
We didn't
approve.
vote on it.
Okay.
Right, you just can just not vote on it. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Just pull it.
Just exclude it.
So I'll make a
Staff
motion.
has direction.
So I'll make a motion excluding items 8.4 and 8.8 off the consent calendar.
Thank you. Got a motion from Councilmember Furman and a second from Councilmember Miller. Let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
And then we'll wait for Ms. Holmes to walk out real quick. And so Ms. Holmes has recused herself because of a conflict of interest on 8.4, so now we'll go ahead and entertain a motion for 8.4.
So I'll make a motion for item 8.4 in the consent calendar.
I'll second that.
We got a motion from Councilmember Furman and a second from Councilmember Miller. Let's go ahead and vote. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you. And we'll move on to item 9.1. Discuss and select the location to install the Desert Tortoise sculpture approved on March 1st.
Don't you think this should wait until we have our meeting with the Arts Commission too? Because I feel like we're just looking for a site for a piece that, and it should be the other way around. We should prioritize a site and then look at a piece, rather than to find a site for a piece. I mean, if we're gonna have the meeting with them,
You can make that motion.
I would make the motion to defer this until after the meeting with the Arts Commission.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we got a motion from Mayor Pro Tem and a second. Done the motion? Okay, then we'll go ahead and defer that one.
And that is on your very next council meeting as planned, the joint meeting, so
Nice.
July 19th, so it'll be soon.
Awesome. Cool, thank you.
I thought we only met once in July. Oh,
The
yeah.
second,
That is, yeah.
second, it may be.
Now we have item 9.2, approving the formation of the Indio Electric Financing Authority Joint Powers Agreement with the Imperial Irrigation District.
Thank you, Mayor. I know the city council is very well briefed on all of this. Over the last several months, we've been working with IAD staff, and we have some distinguished visitors and guests here with us this evening. Directors Hamby and Eugenio, as well as General Counsel for IAD, Jeff Holbrook. And so we welcome them here today and thank them. The board yesterday at IAD approved this very exact item. This is a joint powers authority where both entities are going to partner to address some very significant infrastructure needs that we have here in Indio specifically. So this partnership will allow us to research and further those financing mechanisms that will bring about that important infrastructure. So what you see on the agenda this evening is a joint powers agreement. Attached to it are two exhibits, one relating to the servicing, as IAD plays a role in the JPA of receiving additional revenues that then would be remitted back to the JPA for the purposes of financing these infrastructure improvements, and then the project agreement. So the projects as they come forward, specifically substations and related infrastructure, would go through a process of going to IAD, making sure that the funding's available, and beginning the construction process. So this partnership has been long contemplated. It's had various arms and legs and iterations, but this is the one that has stuck. And as I stated, IAD approved it yesterday. We certainly recommend approval. The resolution would then create this Indio Finance Authority. That's the Electric Finance Authority. Your very next meeting on July 19th, you could sit as the JPA, because as you see in the Joint Powers Agreement, while IAD plays a role and a significant role continuing to operate the services here, you would sit, you as the 5 city council members would sit as the board of the new JPA. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but it is fairly straightforward in the documents, and we look forward to your consideration.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions?
I'll make a motion if there aren't any questions. Okay.
Go ahead and entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 10361, creating the Indio Electric Financing Authority.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Holmes and a second from our Mayor Pro Tem. Go ahead and vote. And motion passes 5-0. Thank you, City Manager.
And thank you to the district for the continued partnership.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Couldn't have done it without you guys.
Yeah, thank you for the hard work. It's been a lot of years, and we got here, and thank you to our city manager for working behind the scenes. You know, this is actually a milestone in our community, and we'll look back and we'll see that we make some good decisions that's going to help us further our community's reliability, sustainability, and development and power and energy in our city. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 9.3, ordinance of the City Council of the City of Indio prohibiting spectators at illegal motor vehicle speed contests, exhibitions of speed, and sideshows by Chief Washburn.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight for your consideration is a new ordinance which addresses spectators at a sideshow or other exhibit, motor vehicle exhibit in public. The California Vehicle Code already addresses the actions of the driver involved in these incidents, but it does not currently address spectating at this. So one of the issues that we're seeing across the state is when folks gather, it actually encourages the type of behavior that the drivers are exhibiting, which is very dangerous. So here are the highlights. It's really very simple. It proactively addresses the statewide trend by making it unlawful for a person to spectate at one of these events. So if they're within 200 feet and they're spectating in a legal speed contest, sideshow, exhibit of speed, then we can take enforcement action against the actual spectator. And being knowingly present as a spectator during the preparation, so they're setting up for whatever they're going to do, doing donuts in the middle of the street, etc. This does not prohibit us from seeking restitution in case we want to, if we can actually hold someone accountable for laying skid marks all over our intersections, then we can probably seek that restitution via the city attorney. Enforcement of this is a violation, by default, is a misdemeanor, carrying 6 months or $1,000 fine, or plus $1,000.
6 months what?
6 months in jail, $1,000 fine, that's the default. Or alternatively, the city attorney can decide to impose an infraction of an administrative fine of up to $1,000.
It's at his discretion?
Correct.
Shouldn't it be a district attorney?
Well, so these are actually prosecuted by the city attorney's office. They would likely be prosecuted by Assistant City Attorney Jillian Martin, so at her discretion, Mayor Pro Tem.
Assistant City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Your office, though.
Yes, my office.
Yeah, okay.
Chief, is this a big issue? I mean, I'm just curious.
It's not a big issue. We don't know if we'll actually use this. It just sets us up in case we start to have those issues. We got to catch them first, but we're not convinced that we have this as an issue right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to add, I asked for this to come, and the reason why is I think we all have heard of the broken window theory. And I sent some photos to Matthew, if he could pull up some of the photos what we're seeing around our city. And if we look at some of the bigger metro, if you could turn it sideways, that one right there, that's the intersection in front of OLPH.
Oh, no.
And we just finished talking about budget. We talk about investing in communities that are disenfranchised and have challenges. And this is proof that we've been investing in our road infrastructure in some of these communities. This is Avenue 44, right coming off the bridge. That's right behind someone's house. There's someone sleeping in there, and all that's blocking them is a wooden fence. And that's just 2 photos. I mean, I've taken plenty. And I think this is something that not only small government has to look at, but our state as far as law enforcement and public safety. And it starts here at home. We have to hold people accountable for breaking the law. And if we don't, it's going to transfer into more theft. It's going to transfer into more serious crimes. And we need to start on the ground level. And seeing how dangerous that is, I talked to Mr. Walsall. We have some of these intersections that's going to cost us $10,000, $15,000 just to repair. You know, so it may seem like a minuscule thing now, but it will gravitate towards bigger issues in our community. We don't want to over-police the community, but there needs to be some kind of accountability for our community because we are investing in our community. We just had an in-depth a report on our budget, you know, and so these communities are in some of our older traditional communities, so, I mean, these photos, so we have to take care of them. So I appreciate the city manager and the chief working on this, and hopefully we don't have to find anybody, but I will support investigations on street racing and these things. I'll just give you a small story that happened last night. Driving with my little one on Monroe, you know, 2 times, same motorcycle, I watched run red lights right next to me, pull up, look in the intersection, and run a red light. Next light, which was on, I believe, Hoover and Monroe, 2 cars, a Cadillac CTS and another car just ran the red lights. And we're seeing accidents left and right on our streets. More and more people are moving to our community, so there's more traffic. And we're seeing more accidents. So we got to be careful. There's got to be an educational component. I get it, but there also needs to be accountability as well. So that's my little soliloquy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, because I do believe in accountability, but I also believe it's our responsibility to educate. And I like that you're proposing options, because it leaves it in the hands of the enforcers, you know, to either escalate or not escalate a situation if and when we do face this. So thank you, Chief, and thank you for bringing this
Yeah,
forward.
and I'd like to add, I want to add, I do believe in spirit of the law. I like our officers to go out, and if they pull someone over who's down on their luck, who may have expired insurance, and because they can't afford it, or they're getting back on their feet because of some infraction, and they're driving their kid to school, I believe in spirit of the law and working with them to get them legal. But I do not agree with folks that blatantly breaking the law, and it has to start here, and it has to, and I mean, I'm having talks with colleagues in Sacramento. There's a lot going on in our state. We look at some of our other cities, and what I like to do, I look at our bigger metropolitan cities and see where the trends are. And, you know, these sideshows are pretty big in Northern California. The city manager comes from there. He could testify on that, and the theft and some of these things. So we have to really look at some of these laws that have been changed the last 5 years and start pulling them back out and changing them back, because the crime and things are getting out of hand in our society. And I think it starts at home. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I would like to suggest if we could possibly reduce the, I don't think we should really put a jail time as an option for spectating.
Well, that's
I think a
it could be
fine.
progressive.
Yeah, but,
So my preference as the entity who's going to be prosecuting it is that we have the ability to prosecute it as a misdemeanor. By default, under state law, any violation of the municipal code is a misdemeanor. But we put that language in there to allow it to be prosecuted as an infraction for what you're exactly talking about.
Okay.
We're going to look at the facts and circumstances of each case. I think, you know, someone standing there, they were walking by, or maybe even, you know, cheering. I mean, is that really worth jail time? No. But it doesn't take very long if you do some research on the spectating. Numerous examples of crowds getting extremely unruly, you know, blocking intersections, attacking police vehicles. It would be nice to have the ability to prosecute as a misdemeanor if the facts and circumstances justified it. And I can tell you, in all my time here for the last year, we've prosecuted 1 criminal misdemeanor under the city's municipal code. We take that big stick, we take it very seriously. So I'd like that to remain, but I will absolutely take that power seriously.
Gotcha.
We're not going to overcharge.
Okay. Thank you. Everybody good?
All right. Wayman, you want to
Yeah,
make a motion?
sure. I'll recommend that we waive full reading of ordinance 1794, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Indio, adding Chapter 73, Title, was that 12? 7 of the Indio Municipal Code prohibiting spectators at illegal motor vehicle speed contests, exhibitions of speed, and sideshows. Introduce the ordinance by title only and request that the city clerk read the full title.
We have a motion from Councilmember Furman and a second from Councilmember Miller. Let's go ahead and vote. And that
Councilmember, I know the hockey game started already. I'm sorry. I'm talking
passes
today.
5-0.
You
Thank you.
promised me.
We'll score that.
And then we'll move on to item 10.1, City Council Indio Water Authority Joint Resolution adopting the fiscal year 2023-2024 operating and capital improvement budget and program. There you go.
Ray Trejo, General Manager of Indio Water Authority. What I have today is that there's no changes from last month's presentation, so I'd like to jump into our summary slide. These are the slides that you've seen before. Just to recap what our balanced operating fund is for the proposed budget, and that is for our operating revenue, it's about $24.9 million. We will be transferring from our unallocated fund balance to ensure that we pay for our capital improvement program, and that total brings us to $29.1 million. The summary of what that pays for is right below that, and again, that totals $29.1 million, and that gives us a balanced budget. After transferring the unallocated fund balance, the little star there at the bottom, you'll see that we have $25 million remaining in that account for the next 10 years to help fund capital improvement programs moving forward. Real quick summary on our supplemental and diff expenditures, $315,000 for part of the Evra project. We also have the drilling of a new well that we'll continue to design. And then the reserves. It's important to note that we are fully, we have the maximum on the operating reserves and the maximum on emergency reserves, which goes well with the earlier presentation on how ready we are for an emergency event. With that, our recommendation is as follows for items 1 and 2. Happy to entertain any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Trejo. Any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you very much for this effort.
No questions here?
Yes.
All right.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Appreciate it. Oh, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
None, Mayor.
No public comments. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain a motion if there's not any questions.
And if it comes up, I'll be glad to make that motion. It's not up yet, so if you have it up, go right ahead.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, I got it.
Go ahead.
That I'd like to make a motion that the City Council, IWA Board, conduct a public hearing to approve the fiscal year 2023-24 capital improvement and supplemental water supply programs, CIP, by joint resolution number 10364, and adopt IWA's recommended operating and capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2023-24 by resolution number 2023-80.
Second that. Thank you, Mr. Trejo, for your hard work.
Yes.
Staff?
Thank you for the pretty pictures, Mr.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Holmes and a second from Councilmember Miller. Go ahead and vote.
One more?
One more. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Trejo, again for your leadership at the Indio Water Authority. Appreciate it. Thanks. And we'll move on to item 10.3, resolution number 10369, levying the annual waste charges for fiscal year 2023-2024.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'll be happy to answer any questions, but it is our recommendation to hold a public hearing and adopt the resolution 10369, levying the annual waste charge for fiscal year 2023-2024, and ordering the annual solid waste charges to be collected on the County of Riverside tax roll. Both Ms. Sarah Toyota and the folks from Burtec, including Mr. Orlet, are here if you have any specific questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do not.
No questions here? All right, and this is pretty much just keeping up with the county's prices.
That's correct.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any public comments, Ms. Sanchez?
None.
No public comments. Go ahead and close the public hearing, and we'll entertain a motion if
I'll
there's
make a motion to hold a public hearing and adopt resolution number 10369, levying the annual waste charges for fiscal year 2023-2024 and ordering the annual solid waste charges, to be collected on the County of Riverside tax roll.
I'll second that.
Right, we have a motion from Councilmember Miller and a second from Councilmember Furman. We'll go ahead and vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Wassel, and thank you to Mr. Orlet for joining us here today as well. Thank you.
move on to item number 10.4, resolution number 10370 and 10371 and 10372 for landscape and lighting district numbers, proceedings relative to levying annual assessments. Mr. Wassel?
Again, thank you, and this is initiating the proceeding for the landscaping and lighting district numbers 01 to 22, 24 to 29, 31 to 54, and approving the preliminary engineer's report for the district numbers 01, 22, 24, 29, 31, 54, and declaring the city's intention to levy and collect assessments and setting Wednesday, July the 19th of 2023 at 5 p.m. as the time for a public hearing, which will be conducted here at the City Council chamber, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions of staff?
Not at this time.
Hearing none, we will open the public hearing. City Clerk, do we have any members of the audience wishing to speak? Seeing no one step forward, we will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution numbers 10370, 10371, and 10372, initiating proceedings for the landscaping and lighting district numbers 01-22, 24-29, and 31-54. Second, approving the preliminary engineering report for district numbers 01-22, 24 through 29, and 31 through 54. And 3, declaring the city's intention to levy and collect assessments and setting Wednesday, July 19, 2023 at 5 p.m. as a time a public hearing will be conducted in the City Council chamber.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Furman and a second by Councilmember Miller. There being no further discussion, we're going to take our time and place our vote so the mayor can vote.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And we'll move on to item 10.5, acceptance of fiscal year 2022-2023 enhancing law enforcement activities sub-account. Mr. Chief Washburn.
Mayor and Council, this is the funding formerly known as SLESA. It's now called Elios, we think. That's what we're going to call it.
Elios.
So this year's portion for Indio is $137,671. We're primarily going to use that for upgrading our radio system, but also other equipment, supplies, and personnel costs. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Washburn. Any questions?
Nope.
No questions. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Any public comments?
None, Mayor.
No public comments. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And I'll entertain a motion if there's no other questions.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the fiscal year 2022-2023 enhancing law enforcement activities sub-account funds in the amount of $137,671. Approve the enclosed expenditure plan, attachment A, and authorize city manager to sign the expenditure plan and other relevant documents.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Councilmember Furman and a second from Councilmember Miller. Go ahead and vote. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And we'll go ahead and move on to our public comments. We have one from Barbara. I can't see the last name, but I see Barbara there. Hallbrook? All right. Go ahead and come forward. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Can I give you my iPhone? Yeah, we're really concerned about the housing that was put up that nobody really knew about until it was going up on Jefferson. And we back up to the Miraflores track. It's our track and the Seasons Miraflores for senior housing. We don't have any problem with low income and affordable housing, but whatsoever. But to see a 3.5-story, 400 complex going right in our backyard is a little disconcerting. So we don't know what the builder or what the planning commission has required of the contractor as far as security fencing, law enforcement. That's going to be over 1,600 people that are going to be in those high-rise places there. And lighting and, we just don't know what's going to be going on with that. And what is the planning commission going to be doing? And isn't there a height restriction in the Coachella Valley as far as things going up that high? And I don't know if it's supposed to be 100 feet building from your block walls. I'm not exactly sure. But the whole complex is just extremely concerned about the height of that thing just being stuck right in our backyard. When Indio has a extremely large amount of open spaces, and I know that they do have bus issues and probably a little bit of police issues, but down on the 10 freeway where that huge shopping center is, where the big Walmart is, that's all open land out there. It would have been a beautiful spot for these places. But 1-story, yes, 2-story, okay, but it's just a horrible complex, and there's not too many happy people in the area with it. So that's just what I wanted to present. If the contractor's going to maintain that and keep that area safe back in there.
Thank you, Ms. Halberg. We have had some, go ahead, Mr. City Manager.
I think Mr. Snyder's in the audience, our Community Development Director. He'll provide your card, his card to you, and could help answer all of the questions you just had.
Thank you. And have your phone right here.
There.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Next one we have Christopher Martinez. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Martinez. I am one of the 4 cannabis appellants. I appreciate the time to speak. I am here because the determination of our appeals opinion letter stated that our sole reason of denial was due to the false pretense that we missed our appeals request deadline. On Friday, June 16th, I CC'd the City Council in my response to the hearing officer. We in fact submitted our request within the allotted time, and this was affirmed by supporting documents. This mistake could have easily been avoided and was negligent at best. The hearing officer has yet to respond. Ironically, he just responded. Haven't been able to review the email. After my Friday response, Mr. Snyder informed the hearing officer of his mistake and requested him to reconsider his opinion. We greatly appreciate his efforts to get this corrected, but feel that the trust in this process and in the hearing officer has been compromised. The hearing officer also missed his ordinance-approved deadline to provide his opinion within 20 days of the hearing. I asked the council to put themselves in our shoes for a brief moment. An untimely appeal request on our end would have forfeited our right to appeal. Are there any repercussions for the hearing officer's untimely opinion letter, or can he arbitrarily decide not to follow the ordinance? We are held to the highest standard of the ordinance and have worked diligently to meet them. How can there be equal accountability and fairness moving forward? None of our claims that were presented with supporting documents over a 3-hour-long hearing were mentioned in the opinion letter. The hearing officer and his firm have a long track record of representing cities and boast on their website that they have successfully defended over 50 lawsuits filed by dispensaries. This, along with the opinion letter, makes it very difficult to believe that this third party is able to be impartial or even willing to provide any type of opinion that would be seen as going against the city's determination of our application. We have also spent an enormous amount of hours submitting our application and have easily spent double the time going through the appeals process. We also have spent roughly $50,000 to reach this point. All for the goal of confirming that the process was justly executed and conceding, or identifying the errors and working with the city to find a remedy. We have zero interest in going the litigation route because we would only hurt the Indio residents who are our parents, our siblings, our friends, our neighbors, ourselves, ultimately our community. I have confidence that the City Council can have empathy for our situation and lead staff to finding an amicable solution. Many other cities have opened additional licenses to correct their missteps and avoid litigation through this process. We look forward to working with the city to resolve the issue, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Mayor, if I could just respond.
Sure.
City staff believes that the fairness and integrity of the process is critical. That's why even though the appeal determination came in affirming the decision of the city manager, city staff agreed with Mr. Martinez that the basis for that affirmation was incorrect. The appellants were relying on information that had been supplied by staff about what the deadline was to file the appeal. We would like the city manager's decision to be affirmed, but we'd like it to be affirmed on the merits, not because of an incorrect interpretation of the city's code. As Mr. Martinez mentioned, the hearing officer did respond to both Mr. Martinez's email and the email and the letter that was drafted by staff asking for reconsideration, and the hearing officer has agreed to reconsider the opinion and consider those appeals to be timely. So we expect that to be done in an expeditious way. There's no process in our ordinance that allows for a decision to be made on this other than through the appeal and through the hearing officer. The only other option is to file a claim in Superior Court. That's a big expense for the appellants and for the city, delays the process. And so we believe that the reconsideration was the appropriate thing to do for both the city and for the appellants. And I'm glad that the hearing officers agreed to that request.
Thank you. I have another request to speak by Stephen Viadigi. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm Stephen Viadic, owner, operator of Reefer Madness, a successful cannabis dispensary in Palm Springs. I'm one of the 8 to 9 applicants left in the Indio cannabis competition. My success in Palm Springs is the result of my commitment, solid business management practices, and most importantly, my understanding and care for the needs of the governing body, community, and workforce in the Coachella Valley. Last week, I received a letter from the hearing officer regarding my appeal. The letter made no comment on the 10 substantive arguments I made during the nearly 2-hour-long appeal hearing, and it claimed falsely that my appeal was untimely. Staff recognized this error and requested that the hearing officer reconsider the decision and make a determination based on the substantive issues raised in the appeal. Mr. Snyder's effort on our behalf is sincerely appreciated. I'm certain that the arguments made in my appeal clearly affirm that my application score was impacted by a process gone astray. I'm 100% owner of my business and plan to relocate to Indio from Palm Springs to shepherd the new planned store and get involved in the community. That cannot be said from the dominant owners that are based in Irvine, Alameda, Newport Beach, and Los Angeles, 4 of the candidates currently ranked in the top 5. I stand firm in my belief that I made solid, compelling arguments in my application and appeal, and that includes legal consideration. I've spent over $35,000 in application fees and rent in Indio and countless hours preparing my application and appeals and the engineering that I've done to the site. In my application, there was a pro forma business plan in which I projected over $500,000 going to the city of Indio in the first 3 years from the 6% community benefit fee. I pay 10% to the city of Palm Springs and have survived while corporate stores have failed. I respectfully request that I be considered for a license in Indio. In addition, because of the way things have evolved and to keep things simple, I encourage council to consider giving out a few more than the originally 5 planned licenses. I think 8 or 9 licenses would cover everyone that's still in the game and cover future attrition. In Palm Springs, for example, there's been a 20% rate of failure for licensed cannabis businesses. It is not uncommon for corporately owned stores to close in one city, forfeit their license, and focus their efforts in their most profitable stores. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. We have one more by Mr., I believe it's Sam Griffith.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is, as said, is Sam Griffith, and I live in the Four Seasons Terralago community. In back of my home, and I have a map which I can hand out to you if you wish to see it, in back of my home has been a flat dirt area for the 4.5 years that we've been there. And in the 4.5 years that we've been there, we have asked repeatedly, almost monthly, from the developer for plans for that area in back of us, because it severely impacts my home. It's right in back of my back fence, which is a wrought iron fence. The developer for the past 4+ years has said, oh, no, there's no plans. We'll get to it at some point. Don't worry about it. There was a rumor going through our community, which Elaine can attest to is rumor central, back this past summer that there were finally plans being made. I went to the city planning office and talked to a gentleman there, very kind, very nice, who pulled up a screen that shows that whole area back of my house and said, there's no plans. And by the way, if it's just landscaping, they wouldn't submit plans anyway. Then, now 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden ditches are being dug. And I did a little civil disobedience. I sat my deck chair in front of the tractor and wouldn't let him go forward until he provided the plans, which he did. And he said, oh, these plans were blessed by the city on November 18th of 2022. We, the homeowners that are entirely impacted this and the valuation of our homes will decline because of it, had no say in this matter at all. I come back to the city planning office and talk to Manuel Rocha, really nice young man, by the way, great guy, who said, look, all the developer has to do is bring the plans back in, red line what they no longer want to do based on what you no longer want them to do, and we'll be fine with it, and we won't charge them for it. I finally got to talk to KHOV, the developer, told them this. Their response was, the city of Indio, their planning department turns over people like nobody's business. They're all young. They don't know what they're doing. There's no way that can happen because the city's already blessed it, and it's already gone to the state. So we cannot make any changes. So trees and park benches and all this nonsense, which our HOA does not want and is tearing out in other parts of the community, they're going to do anyway. My request is, can't we, the city, or you, the city, excuse me, say, all right, enough's enough, stop what you're doing, because all they've done is dug a ditch at this point. Let's rethink this whole plan, because it's out of control. It's not right, and it's severely impacting the homeowners. We're not getting much support from the HOA because they don't want to fight with the developer, because the management of the HOA is depending on the developer to keep them in business, basically. That's my request. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have staff look at the process and see where we are in the process. Mr. Snyder, would you like to address any?
Or we'll be happy to meet afterwards. With the gentleman, we've researched some of this, but this is a private HOA area, and our role is typically very limited in this, and it's a matter of contention amongst the HOA that's there, the developer that's there. It may or may not be wise for us to be involved in that negotiation. What they submitted meets our standards. If it needs to be something different, that's not something we dictate. We just have the base standards, and they met those. So that's where we're at. Okay. Obviously, they want something different. Other people don't, and that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Sanchez, do we have any other public comments?
Yes, Mayor, we have one more in Zoom. Pedro Ordóñez, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Pedro Ordóñez, owner of Sensi Indio. I'm one of the cannabis applicants and appellants. I would like to say thank you again for the opportunity for allowing us to speak on this topic. I am here to speak on the disqualification of our appeals by the hearing officer. I've personally gone through 6 different application processes in which I have been awarded 6 cannabis licenses. I know this process is one of the most scrutinized processes there is for any city. Even with that being said, the city of Indio has had its fair share of hiccups. Each step of the way, there has been delays and mismanagement of information. My group has been very vocal about the application process from the beginning, and we have been here trying to assist the city to avoid pitfalls in the licensing programs by being present during the workshops and council meetings. From inserting local ownership to the application and now vocalizing the need for information for our appeals, the city did not make it easy for us to appeal. My group worked tirelessly with limited information and put a carefully methodical appeal presentations to state our case. We figured since the appeal officer was neither the city staff or HDL, we could get a justified hearing. That was not the case. The hearing officer pretty much rushed his decision based on false pretense without verifying the information he based his opinion on. Again, voiding us of a fair hearing. The decision felt rushed as there was no comments or acknowledgments to any of our claims. The hearing officer had 20 days to give back an opinion, and on the 21st, he provided his opinion. City staff is now asking the hearing officer to reconsider his position, but at this point, it would be difficult to find his opinion fair or unbiased. This process has not been transparent, and the trust keeps dwindling away the more we continue. This misstep is one of many in this process has piled on itself. I'm asking the city to reconsider this application process and allow the city to remedy any wrongdoing. One remedy some of the cities have taken is allowing more permits within the city and awarding licenses to those applicants who were affected. I'm here to work with the city. The last thing I want to do is get into any legal rabbit hole with the city. At the end of the day, the only people who will be hurt will be Indio residents, my friends and families, and myself, who are all Indio residents. Thank you guys again and appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ordonez. Any other public comments? No other public comments. All right, well, our next city council meeting is going to be July 19th, and we'll adjourn in honor of Ms. Zoila Orlet. Thank you.